Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the New Dissidents, a podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler. He's got to put his headphones on. Unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Hello. What was that? You lost track of time?
I forgot to get my coffee.
Oh, you forgot your coffee. I had my coffee this morning. With Kit Cabello and Lee Camp. I joined to talk about Gavin Newsom copyright protecting what should be a public domain podcast. So that was fun. I had a big cup of coffee while I did an interview. So that was a fun time for those of you guys who tuned in. Glad you could all be here today. Nice crowd to start things off here today. Over 500 strong in the YouTube chat already. Over 400 strong in the Rumble chat. Let's smash that like button. Let's smash that subscribe button. Smash that follow button over on Rumble. See, I got my spring attire on today. Spring is in the air. It is mid-60s in upstate New York. What a day. Took a nice long walk today. Got a little vitamin D today.
I rode my bike to the Battery yesterday.
Yeah, no, it is. We have definitely turned a corner here, and spring is in the air.
My ass is hurting worse than
Easter-colored button-down shirt here today.
My ass is hurting worse than a CPAC participant at the Gaylord Convention Center.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. They should have AIPAC. They should have every conservative event there.
They really should.
Yeah,
they really should.
Yeah,
I haven't been on the bike in months, man. That's like rode like 25 miles yesterday.
Yeah, that could be rough if you haven't been there in a while, I would imagine. So yeah, we got a lot to get to today. Obviously, pretty big news day starting off the week. The stock market is down, very bad, doing very badly.
Down again.
Yes.
Everyone's saying they've never seen anything like it.
Right. Yeah. No, terrible, horrible. I thought we were going to have boom times. I thought that was what was promised. But
listen, I was telling you, there's stock twits. It's basically Twitter for stock nerds. And they tend to trend MAGA, those folks. And even they're turning. Right. They're like, well, you happy now with this market? This is Trump's market. Yeah, so that's in keeping with some of the polling that's showing them losing Gen Z, because that's mostly Gen Z half-assed day traders on that.
Right. Well, that's a shame. All right, why don't we get started? We got a big crowd in here. Smash that like button, everybody. We'll get to 666 likes, and we got a lot to cover today. Like I said, a very big news day yesterday into this morning, so plenty to get to. All right, let's kick it off.
All right, so obviously we don't necessarily share Thomas Massie's economic philosophy, which tends to be libertarian, but we respect the hell out of his integrity. That is a man of principle who really says what he means what he says, and will bend the knee to nobody. So before they announced their continuing budget resolution, which is a stopgap measure to keep the government from shutting down, they have to have that by Friday, or you're going to have a government shutdown. It's how we do things now. under both parties. So Thomas Massie warned them what he would and wouldn't vote for. He said, I'll vote against a clean CR, that's a continuing resolution, that funds everything in 2025 at 2024 levels because Speaker Johnson isn't following the provision in law that would have cut everything by 1% if the CR extended past April. I guess they had a law that, because this is supposed to go to September, that if it went beyond April, they do that cut. And he's saying if it's not in it, I won't vote for it. We should not fund the waste, fraud, and abuse that Doge has found. Not even throwing Doge under the bus. He's accepting their premises. These are supposed to be 12 separate bills. 4, we were told that the CR in December that got us to March would allow us to prioritize Trump's agenda this March using the checkbook. And then some outlet I haven't heard of said that he says they incorrectly reported I'll be voting no on the rule and refuses to correct his article in spite of being notified of this mistake. What a goof.
Rally, stand up, be American.
Brez reports.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
Never heard of it either. Okay, so that was before they unveiled the bill. So on the 8th, GOP unveils stopgap bill to avert a government shutdown. They may not have the votes. They really need to keep the Republican caucus united, assuming all the Democrats are going to vote against it. And here's Massie, man of his word. They should have seen this coming. I'm not voting for the continuing resolution budget, cut, copy, paste, omnibus this week. Why would I vote to continue the waste, fraud, and abuse Doge has found? We were told the CR in December would get us to March when we would fight. Here we are in March punting again. WTFO. Now that is what the fuck out. It's military slang. I had to look that up.
Yeah, I had never heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a play on whiskey, foxtrot, tango out.
Got it.
So Donald here, he didn't take too kindly to that, and this is, as we will see, this is not the first time he's had a problem with Massie's independence. Thank you to the House Freedom Caucus for just delivering a big blow to the radical left Democrats, like Thomas Massie, and their desire to raise taxes and shut our country down. They hate America and all it stands for. That's why they allowed millions of criminals to invade our nation. Sometimes it takes great courage to do the right thing. Congressman Thomas Massie of beautiful Kentucky is an automatic no vote on just about everything, despite the fact that he has always voted for continuing resolutions in the past. He should be primaried, and I will lead the charge against him. He's just another grandstander who's too much trouble and not worth the fight. He reminds me of Liz Cheney before her historic record-breaking fall, parentheses, loss. Yeah, you ever see like the notes they got from Jack the Ripper? That's kind of how his tweets read.
Yeah.
With these very weird punctuations and parentheticals. The people of Kentucky won't stand for it. Just watch. Do I have any takers? Anyway, thank you again to the House Freedom Caucus for your very important vote. We need to buy some time in order to make America great again. Greater than ever before. Unite and win.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's the wrong tone.
So this did not go, I think, the way he thought it would. Donald Trump's attack on Thomas Massie sparks Republican backlash. House Republicans are slated to vote Tuesday on a continuing resolution, so that's today, so we'll know by the end of the day how that went, that would fund the government at current levels through September and prevent a looming shutdown. Due to the GOP's razor-thin majority in the House, Massie's opposition could prove crucial. Speaker Mike Johnson can afford to lose only one Republican vote. So that's it. That's the vote right there.
Yeah, they got 218. Yeah.
Yep. To pass the measure, presuming all 215 Democrats vote no. Seems like that's a pretty safe bet, although you never know with that team. Some have praised Massie for his record, including his unsuccessful attempt to force a recorded vote on a $2 trillion coronavirus aid package. Others argue that any opposition from Massie should be taken seriously, as he is a lawmaker who, quote, reads the bills. Utah Senator Mike Lee said Massie must have a really good reason to oppose the funding bill. Trump previously called for Massie to be kicked out of office in 2020 for attempting to delay the COVID-19 relief bill. In a March 2020 post on Twitter, now called X, Trump accused Massie of being a, quote, third-rate grandstander who just wanted publicity. Massie went on to easily win the 2020 GOP primary with 81% of the vote and that year's general election with 67%. He won his 2022 and 2024 primaries and elections without serious issue, running unopposed in last November's general election for Kentucky's 4th district. So this is really the wrong person that Trump picked to get on the wrong side of. He's got allies all across the spectrum of the libertarian conservative world.
Yes.
Nick Sorter, right-wing journalist. Even as one of President Trump's most loyal supporters, I disagree with this. Massie was the only member of Congress who stood up to the COVID boondoggle when the world went freaking mad. The chamber booed and jeered, but Massie was right. You know, I'm sorry. If you want to see how psyoped people are by the whole Trump mystique, Trump was behind and promulgated and promoted much of what his movement is most vehemently against, like the COVID relief package. That was his package.
Right.
That was Trump's package. Massie tried to stop it. Trump was for it. Who developed the vaccine? Who was that? That was Trump. That wasn't Biden. It was Trump.
Yeah, when you lost Sorter, that's bad.
Who kept Fauci in that job? Could have fired him. Firing everybody now, right? Could have fired him. Amazing. Chase Oliver, everybody's saying the Libertarian Party treated him very badly.
He was treated very unfairly.
They were very unfair to Chase Oliver.
Yeah, it's terrible what they did to him.
They endorsed me instead. Can you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine your own party endorses me? God, that's gotta hurt. I'm siding with Massie on this. The CR is an insult to fiscal sanity and a sign of business as usual for DC. Massie isn't an automatic no vote, but he is a no vote for spending. If you cut government, he will vote yes, I assure you. Just support his bill ending the Department of Education and see. And Natalie F. Danielishan, right-wing commentator, one thing I will never agree with Trump on, Thomas Massie votes no because he actually reads the bills. Not the first time Trump has called him a grandstander and won't be the last, but I won't let Thomas be primaried. Trump should focus on the Democrats, not Republicans. So Chris LaCivita, Republican strategist, commentator, TikTok Tommy, and that probably didn't go the way he thought it was going to go either. He got a lot of pushback. Ian Carroll, TikTok Chrissy, you picked the wrong fight. Sawyer Fearson, can we deport Chris LaCivita and at real Donald Trump? Clint Russell, threatening the only congressman that actually stands for America first. Bold strategy. Let it be known that the Libertarian Alliance, which bolstered Trump into his popular victory, will immediately become your worst enemy if you oust Thomas Massie. Leave him alone. Leave Thomas Massie alone. And Massie quote tweeted him. Someone thinks they can control my voting card by threatening my reelection. Guess what? That doesn't work on me. 3 times I've had a challenger who tried to be more MAGA than me. None busted 25% because my constituents prefer transparency and principles over blind allegiance. Now, hey, sure,
get your
Trump,
fucking shine box.
Yeah, he's not taking that. So Trump certainly does not like to be contradicted, resisted, called out, refused in any way. So that's certainly a big part of why he's attacking Thomas Massie. But there's probably another reason I would surmise that he's attacking Thomas Massie. Interestingly, there was already grumbling last week about Thomas Massie running for McConnell's seat now that McConnell is retiring, running for the Senate. And, there's a particular organization that has already said they will put unlimited resources into making sure he doesn't become a senator. I bet you could guess which organization that is that does not like Thomas Massie. It's a little organization called AIPAC. So for anybody who needs reminding, this was a snippet that went viral from his interview with Tucker Carlson about almost a year ago now.
Everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are, firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has something like this?
I don't know how it works on the Democrat side, but that's how it works on the Republican side. And when they come to DC, you go have lunch with them, and they've got your cell number, and you have conversations with them. So I've had
that's absolutely crazy.
I've had 4 members of Congress say, "I'll talk to my AIPAC person," and it's literally what we call them, my AIPAC guy. I'll talk to my AIPAC guy and see if I can get him to, dial those ads back.
Why have I never heard this before?
It doesn't benefit anybody. Why would they want to tell their constituents that they've basically got a buddy system with somebody who's representing a foreign country? It doesn't benefit the congressman for people to know that, so they're not going to.
Yeah, why would anybody tell you they got a Jew up their ass?
Yeah, I literally cannot think of a single other person in Congress or the Senate who would say such a thing in public. I can't think of a single person who would say that. No squad member. Rashida Tlaib would not come out and say that. They would not say that. He is literally probably the only one. So not surprisingly, he's earned a lot of enmity from that quarter. In fact, that was June last year. July, Netanyahu comes to visit his speech which Massie boycotted. Today, Congress will undertake political theater on behalf of the State Department. The purpose of having Netanyahu address Congress is to bolster his political standing in Israel and to quell international opposition to his war. I don't feel like being a prop, so I won't be attending. Yeah, this could be part of it. AIPAC quote tweeted that. Once again, Thomas Massie is standing with AOC and Bernie Sanders against our ally Israel. How much AIPAC money does he take? $0. $0. And now this actually, I flagged this last week because I was thinking about doing a story about it before this even blew up. Israel's lobby launches preemptive war on Thomas Massie. Republican Jewish Coalition CEO Matt Brooks told Jewish Insider, quote, if Thomas Massie chooses to enter the race for U.S. Senate in Kentucky, the RJC campaign budget to ensure he is defeated will be unlimited. Unlimited. So this could be part of the reason. I'm not saying it's the only reason. Trump doesn't like to be defied. But certainly Trump would be looking for a pretext to get rid of Thomas Massie, given who he actually works for. It's not MAGA, it's MIGA, folks. It's MIGA. There he is, standing right in front of the flags of a foreign country. We've shown this before, but it bears taking a look at again. Here's Donald Trump telling you how Sheldon Adelson would crack the whip on him to do more for Israel, and Miriam, his wife, now that he's dead, she's running the show, gave him $100 million in this election cycle. How she would say, Sheldon, he just did this for us, and how he would hop right to it to get even more done for them. Let's take a look.
It's true, though. She had to sometimes tell him, calm down. You just had a big victory. Let's celebrate. No, we have to immediately start. Let's see if we can do Golan Heights. How about Golan Heights? They've been trying to get it for 72 years. I got it done in about 15 minutes, okay? So.
Wow. He's bragging about it. He's bragging about how fast he did the bidding of Miriam and Sheldon Adelson, how he got what they wanted done faster even than they thought it could get done. That's who your president works for. He works for Israel. He is an owned subsidiary of AIPAC, and Thomas Massie, as I just said, I think literally the only person in the entire Congress and Senate who would actually speak up about the influence that AIPAC has in this way. That is certainly a part of why Trump is looking for a pretext to go after him. But that's not your Huckleberry, man. He's too respected by too many people. And this is one thing I will say. Yes, we get frustrated that a lot of Trump supporters and a lot of the MAGA movement, as we'll see in some stories we're doing later on today, yes, they can be very hypocritical, like with freedom of speech, going along with the persecution of this student protester. But they will defy leadership in a way the Democrats will not under any circumstances. And you get that around Thomas Massie. Like, they will not give in. If Trump keeps going after Thomas Massie, he's going to have real problems. And as a result, I think this is probably the last you're going to hear of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that there will be a very vicious campaign against him if he does run for Senate, which makes the timing of this kind of perfect because, they obviously want to get this spending bill passed through by Friday. And so it's kind of a perfect collision of circumstances where they get to try and take him down a peg on a budget bill deal before they're going to have to obviously just unleash AIPAC on him when he runs for Senate, because they certainly don't want him in the Senate, especially they don't want him replacing a guy who, is really in worse shape than Joe Biden was by this point, but he was a giant of the Senate, just a major fundraising machine. Those are big shoes to fill, and they certainly don't want someone who's not bought by Israel filling them. So it kind of works out for them in that way. But, this does present a problem. And, we said before Trump was inaugurated that you're not going to be able to square being anti-Israel and pro-Trump for long once he takes office. The same thing kind of applies here. There are a lot of libertarian-oriented conservatives, like the Mises Caucus people would be a perfect example of this. Clint Russell is one of them, Dave Smith, who I think tried to convince themselves that basically Trump and Massie were simpatico, that they were the same breed. Right. But they're not the same breed. Thomas Massie is a principled, libertarian oriented conservative. Trump is an authoritarian. And so on matters of military spending, on matters of free speech, they are, of course, going to diverge. And everybody who likes Massie and thought that they could sort of convince themselves that Trump was basically Massie and Massie was basically Trump, they're going to have to choose, and you'll see which ones of these guys have integrity and which ones don't. I think they will, for the most part, take Massie's side because he has such credibility in their spaces. And so, I don't think he's going to be successful in primarying him out. But the fact that he's lashing out at him now is, I think, also a function of the fact that he's got to get this bill through. And, one of the reasons I was a little surprised that he put Stefanik at UN ambassador is because of how slim the Republican majority was in the House. Like, her seat is empty right now, right? And so if he put some other stooge there and she was in Congress right now, then Massie wouldn't be an issue. He votes no, doesn't matter. He still got 218.
I suspect he got a phone call. Who would be very nice at the UN, Donald?
Yeah.
I would really like to see Elise there.
Yeah. But the math is now tough now because he took, I don't know if there are any other Congress people who he took out of Congress to put in the cabinet or on the executive team. But I know she's one, and I know that one is too many votes to lose now, which gives Massie and everybody in the caucus, obviously, tremendous power. Now, Massie is not opposed to Doge. He actually supports what they're doing because he genuinely believes that the smaller the government, the better. Whereas Elon genuinely believes that it's okay to just starve old people. Right. So that's kind of a difference there. So, yeah, look, Massie is a man of principle. Some of his principles align with mine. Some of them don't. But he certainly is a guy who stands his ground. And this is one of those situations where he said he's not going to vote for any spending package that corresponds or increases the 2024 spending package, which, as we know, this bill ultimately, I don't know what's in the stopgap, but the ultimate final version of this bill that they're going to try to pass through includes.
No, it's doesn't include cuts. He won't vote for anything that stays at the same level.
No, that's what I mean. What I'm saying is, I don't know if this stopgap includes the $100 billion increase to the military budget, but the final bill will, unless they scrap it and start from scratch. Now, I think eventually they're going to have to scrap this and start from scratch anyway, because I don't think that all of these entitlement cuts are going to pass muster with their base. We'll see, though. We'll see. That's going to be interesting. But for now, yeah, Trump has a bit of a fight on his hands because he picked a fight with a very beloved figure.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Hillary Hinton, George Romero knew the score way back in 1978. Wake up, sucker. We're thieves and we're bad guys. That's exactly what we are. Peter in Dawn of the Dead. A fucking man. Thank you, Hillary Hinton. Appreciate that. Abiding71 says Zionist fever seems to be breaking from big right-wing accounts Theo Von, Candace Owens, to yesterday Taibbi and Kern supporting Columbia protesters. Oh, that's good to hear.
Oh, yeah.
0.46% approval or 46% approval is just the beginning. That's good to hear. Yeah, I know they do their podcast, every Monday night? So that would have been last night. Dino Pantalucas over on YouTube. Thanks to the 1999 to my Flushing connection. You guys are killing it, bringing the heat to the system and all the grifters. My favorite show. Well, thank you, Dino. Appreciate that. Give you a heart over there for that one. Thank you very much. Let's see. What says Ken Texican? Sounds like Crocodile Massie is prepared to shell a check tough guy Twompy and the GOP Twinkies in Congress. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate the super chats and the Rumble rants, folks. We got now 1,500 strong in the YouTube chat. 742 on Rumble. All right. Let's move on now to our next crop of stories. All right. So this is kind of a marathon, folks, in a few different parts. So we kind of...
I'm going to go out for a sandwich.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. This is going to be kind of a big one. It's going to be the lion's share of the remainder of the program, although we do have some other stories to cover as well. With Blakely, we kind of broke the news of the arrest and detention by pro-Palestine activist Mahmoud Khalil. So we already have a short segment out about this, but obviously this was the big news yesterday into today. So the White House taking great pride in arresting and detaining and, if all goes their way, deporting a legal permanent resident of the United States, married to an American citizen who's 8 months pregnant with his baby, Shalom Mahmoud. See, that's the new troll that they use, right? ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mahmoud Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University, pardon me. This is the first arrest of many to come. President Donald J. Trump. So there you could see there, kind of presented like a wanted poster, arrested by ICE on March 9th, 2025. There's no criminal charge here, obviously. That ought to go without saying. But here's Trump's full tweet. Following my previously signed executive orders, ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mahmoud Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it. Many are not students. They are paid agitators. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. If you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of innocent men, women, and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you are not welcome here. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. Thank you. Misty Winston tweeted out, it's funny because slaughtering innocent men, women, and children are our foreign policy interests. So that's kind of a strange perversion of the truth there. But as you can see, Donald Trump very, very proud of ICE for arresting this activist. Again, no criminal charges whatsoever. Marco Rubio tweets out, we will be revoking the visas and or green cards of Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported. So already what you're seeing here is the conflation of pro-Palestine activism with support for terrorist activity. Right. I mean, that's clearly the connection that they are making in broad daylight very loudly and proudly. So here comes some evidence for this, supposedly from Eitan Fishberger. When you see people gnashing their teeth and rending their garments over the arrest and potential deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, one of the lead Hamas acolytes at Columbia University, show them this thread of his greatest hits. Now, we just have to say from time to time throughout this segment for YouTube, because these words, pro-terrorist, pro-this, pro-that, come up a lot. He is, of course, not a terrorist. He's an activist, an anti-war activist, as he says numerous times. And if you notice, all of the video that they have about this guy, there's not one threat of violence, not one act of violence, not one word of harassment, not one word of intimidation. This is Exhibit A in this guy's thread of look what a monster Mahmoud Khalil is. Here he is.
And that's not even his name. That's a troll. His name is actually Michael Berger.
Yeah, right, exactly. So Glenn Greenwald quote tweeted this and said, wow, this changes everything. An incriminating dossier on the Columbia grad student Trump ordered deported. In one, he detonates a suicide vest and blows up innocents. Oh, wait. No, he doesn't do that. He calmly gives interviews explaining his views on opposing Israel's war. So this is the first piece of evidence that this Eitan Fishberger cites to
totally
prove
fake name.
What a monster.
He went into
is.
AI. Give me the Jewiest name possible for my Twitter handle.
Exactly. So here is, like I said, first piece of evidence that he cites.
To listen to the university and leave the encampment here? Of course not. The university is the one who should listen to us. They should listen to their student body who are demanding to end their investment in the war that's happening in Palestine. Our demands are clear. Our demands are regarding divestment from the Israeli occupation, the companies that are profiting and contributing to the genocide of our people. Again, the university, once again, they are so stubborn and listening to their students. They're treating this matter as a disciplinary matter. They're not treating this as an anti-war movement that actually gathered thousands of students here. That actually sparked.
Okay, now we're only halfway done, so maybe he gets to the real insane, violent, threatening part, but I did want to just pause it there. It's an anti-war movement. So an anti-war movement is not a pro-violence movement by definition. It's an anti-war movement. So far he said nothing there that would substantiate this guy's assertions. Nothing whatsoever.
That's not true by definition, but it's certainly true in the way that he's framing it.
Of course, in that
video. I mean,
students
there were a lot of domestic terrorists doing anti-Vietnam actions.
Sparked thousands of students across the United States.
How far are you all willing to go here on campus?
We're going to go as far as we need to pressure the university to pressure the university to divest from the occupation. This is up to the group, to the leadership of the group, to decide how far they will go. But now it's clear that the students will remain here. They will stay here until they achieve their demands.
Right. So obviously the context of that was we're going to stay here and continue a peaceful occupation of this campus until the college that we pay tuition to divests from Israel, which is committing a genocide. So absolutely nothing in that video that is alarming, threatening, intimidating whatsoever. I mean, that is That is very, very safe First Amendment speech. That doesn't even approach the line of anything that you would consider to be dangerous in that way. But that's, like I said, the first item on this guy's list. And he had a few others where he said essentially the same thing. There's already a very long segment. Otherwise, we'd play all of them. But feel free to look him up, Eitan Fishberger, there on X, and you could see all of his evidence there. So you've kind of gone too far when Ann Coulter is to your left on immigration. Yeah. So Ann Coulter says, there's almost no one I don't want to deport. But unless they've committed a crime, isn't this a violation of the First Amendment? Yes, Ann, it is a violation of the First Amendment. Maybe tell that to Scott Jennings next time you're invited on CNN, which I don't expect will be anytime soon. So Scott Jennings cites a quote from this online organization about eradicating Western civilization, and really goes all in on that when he is trying to defend the actions against Mahmoud on CNN. So we'll watch a couple minutes of this.
Be deported under U.S. law for if the Secretary of State has any reasonable ground to believe he would have a potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequence. And you mentioned the student organization. The student organization put out... Let me finish.
But before you move on, because I think that's a really important point, right? That's the statute that they're using.
Yeah.
Have you seen any evidence to suggest that there is actually a serious reason to believe that this student is going to be a threat to to national security?
I mean, I've certainly watched the abomination that's gone on at Columbia and Barnard and other places, and I will just tell you, and I'll just tell you that
I'm not going to let you move on because this is the
I'll tell you why it's a threat to national security if you let me answer you.
Well, Scott,
do you want me to answer you or not?
Okay, first of all, before he answers, what abomination at Columbia University? They can never cite anything. Think of all the thousands of hours of video there are of Columbia University protests, between the footage that the students shoot themselves, the footage that the visitors shoot and post online, the footage that the mainstream news organizations film and broadcast. They have not found one act of violence committed by one of these pro-Palestine protesters anywhere. So why are they an abomination? What are you talking about? Like, it's just, it is such propaganda. It's amazing. It's really amazing that they can eventually state as a given. You know, you just repeat a lie over and over and over again, and it becomes true, even though you have provided no evidence for it. And the average person doesn't stop and wait a minute, hold on. Just because I've heard them say this 1,000 times, does that mean it's true? Have we actually seen a single piece of actual evidence to support this smearing of the protests as being abhorrent? What's abhorrent about them?
Yeah, we covered this a few months ago, where they made these claims, and the NYPD had not a single case of anyone they arrested for threatening, for violence. This is when the cry bullies were really playing up that the Jewish students were being harassed, that they were being blocked from classes. Not one arrest. Where are the arrests? The police were all over the place. The police swarmed that campus once these protests really got started in earnest. If there were a whiff of that, there would have been arrests.
Of course. Not only would there have been arrests, we would have seen those videos go ultra viral.
Oh my God.
Ultra viral. Hundreds of millions of views. Why hasn't there been one video that's gone viral of an abhorrent act committed by these protesters? Not one. Not a single one, ever.
His organization says we are dedicated fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. He's not a citizen. He doesn't need to be here.
You just described him having viewpoints that you disagree with. Again, is that enough to have someone lose their rights in this country?
He has viewpoints that, in my opinion, jeopardize the security of the United States.
But how?
He is obviously a radical who is here to foment.
No, he's not a radical at all.
He's violence against the United States government.
He wants to destroy Western civilization. Against the United States government.
You're saying eradicate Western civilization doesn't make you a radical?
Has he acted in any way that is...
Once again, conflating radical politics with threatening violence against the United States government. You have a right to express whatever political view you want. Now, here on YouTube, we do not have the right to express any political view we want. And so we must say, we here at the Do Dissidents podcast do not want to eradicate Western civilization. But that is not a violent threat that would get you arrested, detained, or deported. To state that as an opinion. You are not allowed to threaten people. You're not allowed to attack people, obviously. But he acts like this is the first radical, quote unquote, who's ever set foot in the U.S. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I mean, it's just absurd to act like this is grounds for arrest and deportation. It's just absurd. Right. There's no argument whatsoever. These are the same people who cried about safe spaces, who cried about how people expressing certain views are a threat to others. That was the wokesters who did that, and you guys piled on them for years and years and years until this issue came up.
This is all the douchebag dialogue people who were screaming for years about preserving, ironically, the Western tradition of freedom of speech, of open dialogue, of debate. They all flipped on a dime on October 8th and showed you who they were. And now that's just they're just taking it to another level. They know the hypocrisy. That's why they're trying to say, no, vandalism and violence are not free. That's not what. Show me the vandalism and violence this guy committed.
Where is it? There's no vandalism. The worst they did was spray paint some statues that comes off. There's not. I mean, nothing.
Well, and in his particular case, you don't even have that. So where is that?
Right. That's a good point. Like in this particular person's case, you don't even have that. Exactly.
This is, as I was saying the other day, this is the most successful I've seen them be in breaking the brains of MAGA to accept the contradiction to being an anti-free speech movement to having an Israel exception, because they're trying to make it about rich students. They're trying to make it about privileged, woke students, which they've been doing from the beginning. Right. But they're making more inroads with it now than I've seen them make in a long time. I think partly because they're taking it to such a level that you're really going to have to, if you want to be morally consistent about free speech, you're going to have to really go to war with this administration. And when you have your whole identity tied up in MAGA, you're going to find a way clear to justify this.
Yep. Now we got a little more of him.
Violence against the United States government, as you just said.
I think these protests and the violence they have fomented and the intimidation and fear against the Jewish...
I'm sorry, we just can't let it go. They have not fomented any violence. There's been no documented evidence of any violence at or surrounding any of these protesters on the part of pro-Palestine protesters against anyone else.
Kids on these campuses is absolutely an act of insurrection against the United States.
Insurrection?
Speech, Scott.
Okay,
you know what there is a lot of evidence of? There's a lot of evidence of Zionists attacking pro-Palestine protesters. There's quite a lot of that. I haven't seen any of them getting arrested. I haven't seen any of them getting investigated. I'm sure a lot of them are on green cards. We literally have video of that.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Of Zionists attacking pro-Palestine protesters. Not a word about that.
No, and in our next segment, we will get to that. But then she goes to this guy, Mr. Green Tie Guy, for St. Patty's Day, I guess. Ken Klippenstein tweets, on CNN, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman says Mahmoud Khalil is paid by a terrorist organization, saying, I have evidence. When asked by who, Blakeman replies, well, I didn't ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him. So watch this guy.
I would think you'd want to know.
Yeah,
if somebody told you that.
Well, he doesn't want to know. He just wants to be able to go out and smear people, and he's used to CNN panelists backing those smears up. Of course, now that Donald Trump is president, they're pushing back a little bit on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? All right, so here's this guy. Watch him fold like a chair under pressure.
Student visa. He's paid by, he came here on a student visa. He's paid by a terrorist organization. That the head's babies. What evidence do you have of the head's babies? Wait, I have evidence.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're alleging that he's paid by.
He's a paid protester.
By who?
Well, I didn't ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him.
No,
but he's being paid by.
It seems like negligence on your part. You got a guy who you're contending is being paid by terrorists. You don't ask who. Interesting. All right, let's back this up a few seconds.
Ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him. But he's being paid by. He's being paid.
That's a pretty explosive allegation. Who is he being paid by?
Can I ask you a question?
No, you said you had evidence. Who is he being paid by?
He's being paid by organizations that are anti-American that are engaged in nefarious activities. I don't ask my intelligence division to give me.
Then don't come on national TV and say on things. Don't come on national TV.
Do you know who he's being paid by?
I don't, and I'm not alleging that he's being paid.
Are you okay with what he's doing?
I'm not alleging.
Look at that.
I don't know.
Are you okay with that?
Look at how pathetic that is. He comes here, he makes an insane and extremely serious, if true, allegation, which is that the guy's being paid by terrorists. And then when asked, he has absolutely nothing and deflects to being a little bitch and say, well, are you okay with what he's doing? Are you okay? He has absolutely nothing. Just watch this once more.
On a student visa. He's paid by a terrorist organization that beheads babies.
What evidence do you have of
beheads
that?
babies.
Wait.
I have evidence.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're alleging that he's paid by
He's a paid protester.
By who?
Well, I didn't ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him, but he's being paid by. He's being paid.
That's a pretty explosive allegation. Who is he being paid by?
Can I ask you a question?
No, you said you had evidence. Who is he being paid by?
He's being paid by organizations that are anti-American, that are engaged in nefarious activities. I don't ask my intelligence division to give me.
Then don't come on national TV and say on things. Don't come on national TV.
Do you know who he's being paid by?
I don't, and I'm not alleging that he's being paid.
Are you okay with what he's doing?
I'm not alleging he's being paid by because I don't know.
That is pathetic. That is
pathetic.
you have to
look how he
go.
Look how he goes to changing the subject right away. He looked like he was slapped when she asked, "Well, what organization?" Can I ask you a question? No, you were just asked a question. And what intelligence people do you have?
Yeah, what is he?
What is he?
Who is this guy? Hold on.
Some kind of functionary in
Nassau County executive. What?
You have an intelligence division?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
What does the Nassau County executive do? Keep track of how many pizzerias there are on every square block in Great Neck? Is that your jurisdiction? Is that what you're in charge of? You have contacts at the intelligence community? Hey, sorry, Sal, you're gonna have to open a few blocks down the road. We already have, Tony's and Ruggerios on this block.
Now I have a suggestion for you.
Yeah.
Would you consider gelato?
Yeah. What you consider? The ice cream business is pretty good. The pizza business is very competitive. You might want to consider ice cream. People like
still
ice
dairy.
Cream. Yeah, it's still dairy. Still dairy. Yeah, it's still dairy. Exactly. I have intelligence people, but wow, man. I mean, that is so pathetic.
My intelligence division.
Yeah. The fact that you got checked by Anna Navarro. I mean, I'm sure he was stunned.
That's another thing. That's another thing. The entire panel on The View doesn't have half a brain between them.
Right.
And you got checked by her. That's how weak your argument is.
Anna Navarro.
And you're right. Under Biden, they probably would not have interrogated that way.
Right.
He didn't expect it. He thought he could just say that.
Right. He thought he could just say that.
And this, as we'll see in later segments, this is part of what's so dangerous about it. It is the classic example of, first they came for the communists, and I said nothing because I was not a communist, because this is what they're trying to do across the board. They are trying to conflate all dissent and all protest with terrorism and illegal activity. Whether you're protesting Tesla or you're protesting Israel, they're trying to make you a terrorist.
Mm-hmm. And the easiest way to do that is to nail a foreigner first.
Yep.
Right? Because you could say, well, they're here at our pleasure, even though, as Glenn Greenwald stated and made perfectly clear in one of the great videos that he's done about this, if you're here on a student visa, you have protection under the First Amendment. It's not anybody who comes in here on a student visa has to what? Kiss the American flag 3 times a day or we could deport them. No, if you're here legally as a resident, especially in this guy's case, he married an American citizen. He is a permanent legal resident. Obviously, you have First Amendment protections. Obviously. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. Just pathetic. All right, in case we clip this separately. So after Donald Trump and Marco Rubio started gloating about the arrest and detention and planned deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, people took to the streets. So the People's Forum posts this video here now. This was yesterday. New York City out in huge numbers to demand the release of Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil and to say, hands off our students. So this tweet is one of many. I put together a very brief little montage of footage from their protest action yesterday. There's about 3 minutes. We'll take a look. It's not long.
Release Mahmoud Khalil now! Release Mahmoud Khalil now! Release Mahmoud Khalil now! That's right, Mahmoud Khalil must be released right now! He must be released right now because he is on the side of justice, he's on the side of truth, and he represents the majority of the people in this country.
Today, the Palestine movement joins our brothers and sisters in the immigrant rights movement and all progressive forces to demand the release of Mahmoud Khalil, to demand an end to the targeting and harassment of all students, and to demand that ICE get off of our campuses. Free Mahmoud Khalil and free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! When students are under attack!
There's Jonathan. You see him?
We have a message for Trump.
That was Jordan's guy in the front row there getting the video.
Oh, Jonathan?
Yeah, Jonathan was there. Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, he's
Free
everywhere.
Palestine!
You'll see him as the camera pans across with the beard.
When students are under attack!
There he is.
What do we do?
We have a message for Trump. You think you can threaten us? You think you can intimidate us? Well, we have a response for you. We are not stepping back. We are not staying quiet. We are not going home. We are here to fight for Palestine. We are here to fight for immigrants. We are here to fight for all our rights. They made a mistake in arresting Mahmoud because they thought it would happen in silence, that people wouldn't react. But all we have seen across the country has been millions of people coming together to defend Mahmoud. And today, thousands have come together here in New York. Are you ready to march? Are you ready to march? But we want to do more than just march, because this moment requires each and every one of us to fight and to organize. Only the millions of people together, not just in New York, but across the country, can defeat and win over the fascists.
All right, so there you have some highlights from the protest. Now, both of the speakers there that they tweeted out not only obviously defended Mahmoud, but they defended immigrants, which is why, one of the really kind of crazy things when we did a few of those segments a few weeks back about Guantanamo Bay and how, immigrants were being sent to Guantanamo Bay. It's amazing how many people thought that was okay, found a way to rationalize that. Well, they're illegal. Like, you don't understand. And by the way, the reason we haven't covered that in a while is because through the courts, actually, and we prepped this segment, but it got bumped out of the news cycle a lot of times because as much as it's fun to do a good news story, we feel like bad news is more important. So there's been too much bad news pushing out the good news. A court actually threatened the government, and the government moved the people at Guantanamo because the plaintiffs in the case demanded to speak to the lawyers of the immigrants being detained, and the government wouldn't let them speak to lawyers at Guantanamo, so they had to get rid of them so they could speak to a lawyer from somewhere else. So currently, there's no one there, thankfully, because the courts stepped in. But as that was happening, I just couldn't believe how many people thought it was just okay to do that. This is a lesson right here. When you declare open season on a group, it doesn't stop at that group. And it's not okay if it did stop at that group, but it never stops at that group. That's the point. It's called mission creep.
You're priming people to accept that logic, and you're seeing that across the board. This is why they started with, oh, yes, these tricksy federal workers.
That too.
All they do is make pipe cleaner sculptures all day, and you're paying for it. And, oh, no, we're just going to look at the people who are committing Social Security and Medicaid fraud. That's all we're concerned about. And now what did you see the other day? Elon. Yeah, the entitlements. That's really what we have to go after. That's where which we've been telling you the whole time. That's where this was going. Because if you accept the premise, which was pretty clearly established, and we did a piece on it, that they're lying about 250-year-olds getting Social Security, well, now if you accept that, then you're not going to realize what they're doing. But if you actually do some research and realize they're lying, okay, well, why? Why? Then you have to ask, well, what's the motive to lie about it? Well, clearly they're trying to set up a pretext to cut these very, very popular programs. Same thing here. They're doing this all across the board. They're trying to get people ready by pushing their buttons on things that most people would agree with whatever you feel about Guantanamo, which obviously we're against. Okay, people who are in the country illegally should be removed from the country. That's a very popular position. Now they have primed you for this student protester who's in the country illegally. He should be deported too. You're already halfway there now.
Legally, you meant.
Who's here legally?
Yes.
Now he has to go too.
Right. Exactly. So they got some good news at the protest yesterday. Breakthrough news with the footage here. Here is one of the protesters announcing to the crew that a federal judge has temporarily blocked the deportation order of Mahmoud Khalil. So here's breakthrough news with the video.
News that we just got news that a judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's order for deportation. And it's because they know that the millions of people across this country are gonna rise up if they continue these illegal actions that are stripping our rights. It's not because they're benevolent. It's not because they just handed us our rights one day and they decided, yeah, let's keep it going. It's because we fought for our rights.
Yep, drop site breaking. A United States federal judge in the Southern District of New York has blocked the deportation of Columbia University's Mahmoud Khalil, ordering all parties to appear Wednesday, that would be tomorrow as of this recording, 11:30 a.m., at the SDNY courthouse to address his habeas petition. Khalil is challenging the legality of his detention. So, Reuters with the report, judge temporarily blocks deportation of arrested Palestinian Columbia student. A U.S. judge on Monday ordered that Palestinian Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil not be deported for now as part of U.S. President Donald Trump's crackdown on some anti-Israel protesters and set a court hearing in the case for Wednesday. Trump publicly denounced Khalil and said more arrests would follow. Khalil has been moved to a federal jail for migrants in Louisiana to await deportation proceedings, according to his lawyers and a U.S. detainee database. So he was relocated to over 1,000 miles away. His wife could give birth at any day. She's 8 months pregnant. So his wife could give birth at any day. He is over 1,000 miles away, not knowing whether he's going to be allowed back into the country at all for the non-crime of peacefully protesting the most sadistic and sinister war crime of our lifetime. That's the land of the free, baby. That's where we are right now. On Monday, U.S. District Court Judge Jesse Furman put a hold on his deportation unless and until the court orders otherwise. Khalil's lawyers also urged Furman to order Khalil's return to New York. They accused the government of seeking to deprive Khalil of access to legal counsel by sending him far from New York. Yeah, and, not to disparage the great state of Louisiana, but, you're less likely to find the right kind of representation down there than you are in New York. No disrespect to our Creole friends down there. Russ knows about that.
Yes.
Trump said on social media that Khalil's is the first arrest of many to come. The Trump administration has not said Khalil is accused of or charged with a crime, but Trump wrote that his presence in the U.S. was contrary to national and foreign policy interests, going back to what he said in his Truth Social tweet. So I just want you to read that sentence again. The Trump administration has not said Khalil is accused or charged with a crime, but he wrote that his presence was contrary to national and foreign policy interests. Okay, so right there, what it says in plain English right there is that this is a fascist Nazi administration.
Right.
He's being kept in a jail. They have said he has committed no crime. Your presence here is averse to our national and foreign policy interests.
Yeah.
What? What?
Yeah. Well, this is what they want. This is why I keep saying anyone who wants to understand what they're doing needs to go, not that Trump has read this, but the people around him who are actually running things have. Go read Curtis Yarvin. This is his playbook. Fuck democracy. Create the modern version of a king, which they envision as an all-powerful CEO, chief executive, who essentially has unrestrained powers. That is how they're trying to govern. Now, I would be very surprised. So far, they have been adhering to court orders, kind of. They're kind of eliding them by dragging their feet, but they haven't come out and said, yeah, well, that's your ruling. What are you going to do about it? Where's your police force? Where are your troops? What are you going to do? How are you enforcing this order? They haven't done that yet. It's coming. It's coming because even with conservative justices, they recognize that so much of what this administration is doing is blatantly illegal, blatantly unconstitutional, as in the case of this. And there are a lot of judges, conservatives, whatever, wherever they are on the ideological spectrum, who actually do believe in constitutional protections and recognize once you loosen those, well, now you're vulnerable to having that precedent turned against yourself and other people who share your politics. So they're going to rule against the Trump administration. This has been happening in a lot of areas. We didn't get to it today. One of the people who was fired from the NLRB just got restored. So now the NLRB is active again. So much of what they're doing is clearly illegal. They even lost at the Supreme Court last week.
Yep.
So there's going to come a point where so much of what they're trying to do gets overturned by the courts, it's looking like, because most of it is here and there. They've had legal victories, but more defeats on the major points. Sooner or later, they're going to have to decide if they go with the full Curtis Yarvin program and say, yeah, we're doing it anyway. Like, do they deport this guy in the middle of the night and say, what are you going to do about it? It would not surprise me.
No, it certainly would not. Even before Khalil's arrest, students say federal immigration agents have been spotted at student housing around Columbia's Manhattan campus since Thursday, a day before the Trump administration announced it was canceling $400 million in federal grants and contracts awarded to the school because of what it described as anti-Semitic harassment on and near Columbia's New York City campus. The federal agents have been trying to detain at least one other international student, according to the Student Workers of Columbia Labor Union. Spokespeople for DHS and ICE declined to answer questions about the union's account, which Reuters was unable to independently verify. So Max Blumenthal puts it very well here. The mission creep won't stop at revoking green cards of Palestine solidarity protest leaders. The Zionist movement, which paid for Trump's unconstitutional policy, seeks to criminalize all actions that interfere with its supremacist goals. No one knows where the occupation ends. It's absolutely spot on. That's kind of what we've been getting at in this segment. I think he's 100% right. I think it's important that people understand this because by the time your number's up, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late. They have immigration agents crawling around Columbia University. If you're still going to school at Columbia University, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
What the fuck are you doing? That university should be a wasteland. There shouldn't be anybody setting foot on that piece of shit campus ever again. It should it should be out of business.
Today, because the whole what we would call the Western world is in crisis. Like if I were that age, if I were college age, I would think that I would try to set myself up in a different country altogether. But I don't know where.
Yeah,
well, I mean, there's such a crisis of ideological virtue, for lack of a better word, throughout civilization right now. Like it's hard to know exactly where you would go.
Like seriously, I mean, no lie, where I personally would feel safest doing a show like this would probably be Russia. Probably would. I'd probably feel safer. Given the trajectory we're on, I mean, not anywhere in the EU, obviously. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in this country? Don't forget, folks, we're 6 weeks in. We're 6 weeks in. We got 3 years and 46 weeks to go.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about getting a house. Like, man, you really want to make that investment in America? Does America look like a good bet at this point? Really? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's going to get better. Certainly over the next few years. But it's not just America. I mean, Europe is in crisis. Like that entire ecosystem is in crisis. So where do you go? Like, probably if I were that age, if I were college age, I don't know, man, maybe like South Central America. I mean, Russia, you're right. But I mean, it's cold, it's depressing, it's dreary.
The food sucks.
The food sucks. Do you really want to go live there?
Not good, believe me, not good.
Like Central South America, you got some beautiful beaches.
That's true. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Well, where does Whitney Webb live?
Well,
Ecuador?
look, Whitney's down there, Glenn's down there. They're not stupid.
That's true. Brazil, yeah, that's true. That's a good idea. I kind of like that. I'm not the heat year round would not be great, but I could live with it.
You get used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it. Exactly. All right. We are at 686 likes. Beautiful. All right, we're going to take some more Super Chats and Rumble Rants. Thank you for sending the Super Chats. They are super helpful. Guy, thanks for the $2, says, I thought free speech is speech you disagree with. Of course. Marvin Vargas, says, free speech should not cost you your liberty. Of course. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $5. Been a while, Pete Sweet. Thanks for being here. As the saying goes, look who you can't criticize to find out who rules you. Can protest the U.S., but not Israel. Yeah, well, that's the ultimate irony hidden in plain sight, is it? Yeah, you're not kicked out for criticizing the United States government. It is the Israeli government. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know why anybody would think that Trump is Make America Great. He's obviously an agent of Israel. He's not an agent of Russia. He's an agent of Israel.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. His campaign colluded with Israel in 2016.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the one they never want to talk about.
Right.
To their credit, The Nation did a great article about that.
Yeah, exactly. Ken Texican, Miriam's Persian lap cat self-neutered in 2024. That's a good one. I like that one. People of conscience just need to continue with declawing operations. Thank you. Killer Miriam Adelson impression, Rush. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that very much. Sounds like that Green Tide propagandist on CNN thought he had 40 beheaded babies in his audience. There you go. Yes, that's CNN's audience. Good one, Ken Texican. All righty. We will move on right along. All right, folks. So we just kind of gave you the timeline of events from Mahmoud Khalil's arrest to the present. But Zateo actually had a scoop. Emails show Mahmoud Khalil asked Colombia for protection a day before he was detained. So this is a really chilling story. with a lot of moving parts. So let's break this down a little bit because some familiar characters are going to rear their heads as we go through this segment. Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian who helped lead negotiations between Columbia University and student protesters, had appealed to the school for protection from harassment and possibly immigrations and customs enforcement agents 1 day before the Trump administration detained him on Saturday, emails obtained by Zateo show. The most recent among the leaked messages was an email Khalil, a green card holder, sent to Columbia interim president Katrina Armstrong on March 7th. Since yesterday, I have been subjected to a vicious, coordinated, and dehumanizing doxing campaign led by Columbia affiliates Shai Davidai, remember him? And David Lederer, who, among others, have labeled me a security threat and called for my deportation, he began. Now, before we get into Shai Davidai and remind you of who he is, where was any story of a pro-Palestine protester doxing or harassing a Zionist counter-protester? Did you see one?
Yep. Nope.
No.
I've been to quite a lot of these protests. I have not seen one thing that you could define as harassment or anti-Semitism.
Or
ever.
online, no doxing of anybody online, right? No revealing someone's identity.
No, and it's always like this. When you supported Sanders, you had to be very careful what you said online because you knew they were watching.
Right.
If you supported Hillary, there was a great article. You can still find it online. I think it was the Daily Beast, surprisingly. It was either Daily Beast or Huffington Post. It was an outlet you wouldn't expect. Did a whole article about what happens to women online who support Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And it was just the most grotesque, sexist, misogynistic, sexual kind of attacks on them that you can imagine. And that was aimed at what was her name? What was her name? The actress who from Divergent.
Well, I don't. Shailene Woodley.
Shailene Woodley.
Yeah.
Shut up and show your tits. Just talk.
Yeah.
You didn't see the New York Times talking about the toxic Hillary bros.
Right.
Point being, when you're on the side where the establishment is against you, you're much more cautious about what you say. It's usually the people who don't have to worry about that actually commit these kinds of offenses, and we've seen that. We've seen the videos of Zionists doing things Palestinian protesters, pro-Palestine protesters would never dream of doing because they know how damaging that would be to the movement. Even if they wanted to act like that, they wouldn't. If they care about the movement, and they do, or they wouldn't be out there. It's a hard position to take.
Yeah, no, for sure. And one of these Zionists who has engaged in this is, of course, Shai Davidai. So as the article says here, you had Khalil report to the school that he's been subject to vicious, coordinated, and dehumanizing doxing campaign led by Columbia affiliates Shai Davidai and David Lederer. Now, we know that Shai Davidai was on Columbia's radar because he had been suspended from campus just last year for harassing school officials over anti-Israel protesters. So we're going to take a quick look back at this absolute maniac. So this was October 7th, 2024, the one-year anniversary. There was a pro-Palestine protest on campus. Now, understand, these are videos. We're going to play two. These are videos that Shai posted himself. He filmed these videos himself and posted videos himself as supposed evidence of how horrible the protesters were being to him and Israel supporters on campus. This is what he considers evidence against the protesters. Unbelievable. So the first one, these kind of go in sequence, okay? Let's take a look.
The Jewish undergrad, your public safety.
Feel safe on campus
Mr.
right
Bobby Lau, you're...
Okay, so to set this up, there's a Jewish student there who says she doesn't feel safe on campus. She's not being bothered. She's not being approached, nothing. There's a pro-Palestine protest going on. She says she doesn't feel safe, so he grabs security and demands that security escort her to safety, even though literally nothing is happening to her.
Public safety. You're assistant director of public safety. What are you doing about this?
We're doing about what?
We can take a report for you. No, not a report. You're telling a Jew to move out of public space because you can't protect her?
I'm not telling you. Okay,
You're
but
telling
I can't
her
stay
to...
here because I don't feel
So
safe.
come with us. You know what?
I'm going to go back to my
Let's
door
go inside. We're going to go inside and
Nothing's
you're going to
happening
protect
to her.
us because she's allowed to be there. Come with me, man. Okay. And you're gonna protect us. And if something happens, we're going to go in the middle of that. And that's on you, Bobby, because you're not doing your work.
Okay, no, first of all, I mean,
sick bastard.
The idiocy of this man. Hold on, I have to point this out, just from a blocking standpoint. If you were really afraid, so they're walking toward a line of protesters, as we'll see in maybe the end of this video, certainly the beginning of the next one. Like I said, these are in sequence. If you were really afraid that they were going to hurt you, you'd be walking behind the security guy. You wouldn't be walking in front of the security guy and say, you're going to protect us. You're going to protect us from where? Back there, the people you're supposedly afraid of are in front of you. So why are you walking ahead of them if you need protection? And again, he filmed this. He thinks that this is how brainwashed these people are. They literally do not understand how ridiculous they look.
Well, this is what a lot of this is. In the best possible light, these cry bullies are sincere because you have a meeting of the idea of safe spaces, right? Which they've been inculcated with. They tend to be from the class that takes those ideas seriously, with having been raised to believe that Palestinians, while they won't put it this way, this is what they've been raised to believe. Palestinians are animals and they're essentially Nazis. And people who favor them are by definition Nazi-supporting anti-Semites. So you put those two things together, and a pro-Palestine protest becomes a Nazi rally that school administrators are responsible to provide them a safe space to protect them from.
Right. So here's the rest of this.
And that's on you, Bobby.
That's on you.
You're not doing your work.
Even though I'm walking in front of you.
There you go, Bobby. So you tell me, Bobby.
So here's the crowd he's afraid of. Here's the march.
You can leave. No, I am not. You're not telling me where to move, Bobby Lau.
Okay, so now the march comes towards him. Now you can see this guy's going to come into play in the next video. The guy standing over there in the suit. You see there's a walkway right over there. So if Shai wanted to get where he's going, he could walk over that walkway. He's choosing to walk through the protest and then try and claim that they're impeding his movement when clearly the guy standing right over her shoulder, who we're going to meet in the next video, there's clearly a way through without doing this. He's doing this to try and bait them into attacking him. And look at how this goes in the next video. So this is, I guess, a few seconds later.
Here, I want to stand here. And
I want to stand here.
I do not want to be blocked. And you bring all of public safety here right now. Right now. I'm here. No, you're not here for me. I want all.
Okay, the absurdity of what he's saying, I want to stand here. This would be like if you need to tie your shoe when you're walking down the street. And there's a guy standing outside a bar smoking a cigarette. And you go to tie your shoe and you tell him, move. And the guy's like, well, why? Because I have to tie my shoe. Well, to tie your shoe over there. No, I want to tie my shoe here. I want to tie my shoe where you're standing. You move. I have a right to tie my shoe here. Like, that's how absurd this is.
Well, and also, I mean, you could say this about any protest. You could say this about a parade. Oh,
say this about anybody, anywhere
it's the St. Patrick's
in
Day
space.
parade. I want to walk this way. These Irish people are getting in my way.
Right.
Stop them.
You can say this
I'm
about
trying to walk
anybody
up
anywhere.
Fifth Avenue.
If you declare you have a right to stand wherever you want, then you could always declare that someone else is standing where you want to stand.
Right.
Like, what are you talking? Like, it makes no sense. If there's someone sitting on a bench and you walk up to the bench, I want to sit here. You're blocking me. What do you mean I'm blocking you? I'm sitting on the bench. I want to sit on the bench.
But remember, these psychos, really, what they're seeing, I keep sending you those screenshots of the woman that I'm very ashamed I dated many years ago, who is just complete wacko Zionist. She shared Shai Davidai's tweets about how what they're doing is not legally protected because it's vandalism, it's violence. Listen, man, you get into these people's heads, like, what does she believe? She believes that this is a Nazi rally. And if that's what you believe, well, then there can be no explanation for why everyone isn't alarmed and horrified other than anti-Semitism. What else could it be? Right? I mean, there's no other explanation if that's what you completely believe about this. And these real Zionist lunatics like Shai Davidai, that's really what they see.
Of course.
When they see a pro-Palestine protest, they see swastikas coming down the road and everyone's saying, well, that's their speech. right? That's what they think is happening, and they're legitimately they believe that.
All right, here's the rest of this.
Walk with me until they tell them to disperse, because they cannot surround me and limit my movement.
This is amazing.
I have a freedom of movement. If you want to move, I want to walk here and back,
I have freedom of movement. So do they. They're not ghosts. They're physical. They occupy physical space. So you have the right to move where you want. They have the right to move. Like, it's so absurd.
I was just trying to create it.
Watch this. Ignore and move. So the protester is literally telling people to leave him alone. This is the like I said, it's unbelievable how deranged this guy is. He posts this, he films this and posts this as evidence of harassment. He literally puts a camera right in the protester's face, who instructs the crowd, ignore and move, meaning don't engage him, don't get into it with him, ignore him and keep moving. He posts this as evidence that this is a hate march. Ignore and move.
Well, because to him it is. That's how warped these people are. The fact of protesting for Palestine is a hate march to them by definition.
By definition.
Look at this hate march I had to walk through on campus.
Exactly.
Oh, love.
Keep moving.
Let
him go.
We're blocking my movement. Okay. Patrick, they block my movement, and you're not doing anything.
You're walking into them.
Hey, I am standing
He says you're walking
and I have
into
a body camera, and I have everything on camera.
Keep moving.
We just saw in the last video that guy stand in a walkway right next to this one. He says they're blocking my movement. The security guy says, no, you're walking into them.
What a fucking mark.
They are blocking my movement. They're blocking my movement, and you're not doing your job. You're not doing your job. You're not keeping Jews safe.
What a lunatic, man. Nobody says a word to him. Nobody does anything to him. You literally film them saying ignore and move. Literally under orders to leave you alone. And you post it as evidence of them terrorizing
not even bright
you.
enough to edit that.
No, not even bright enough to edit the part out where they specifically say ignore and move. But Shai Davidai, as claimed in the article, one of the driving forces behind the arrest and potential deportation of Mahmoud Khalil. So here he is tweeting at Marco Rubio, Dear Secretary Rubio, because in our last segment we showed you Marco Rubio's tweet signaling that this was a great thing and that we're going to keep doing it. So Shai Davidai then tweets at Marco Rubio, thank you for your strong statements. Now we want to see strong action. Illegally taking over a college in which you are not even enrolled and distributing terrorist propaganda should be a deportable offense, no? Because that's what Mahmoud Khalil from Columbia SJP did yesterday at Barnard College. So Jasper Nathaniel quotes, Columbia professor Shai Davidai collaborated with the Trump administration to get Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil arrested and potentially deported for the crime of leading peaceful protests. Khalil's wife is 8 months pregnant. Now, this guy then replies to him, I didn't collaborate with anyone. This is a blatant lie. Now, how would you characterize using your massive platform to urge the Secretary of State to deport Khalil? In any case, if you're feeling some remorse, now would be a great time to urge Rubio and the DHS to release him. These are real people with real lives we're talking about. Lou Hain was less polite, but you literally urge the Secretary of State to deport a student for protesting. Own up to your shit, coward. Yeah, what do you mean you didn't collaborate? You have a major following. You're a famous figure now because of what an asshole you are. And you tag the Secretary of State. What do you mean you didn't collaborate? Again, this is they're crazy. They're crazy. Like they just lie and distort in broad daylight. Doesn't matter.
No.
So their attacks, back to the article, have incited a wave of hate, including calls for my deportation and death threats. So this is Mahmoud quoted again. I have outlined the wider context below, yet Columbia has not provided any meaningful support or resources in response to this escalating threat, he added. I haven't been able to sleep, fearing that ICE or a dangerous individual might come to my home. I urgently need legal support, and I urge you to intervene and provide the necessary protections to prevent further harm. So, again, here you have a pro-Palestine activist alerting Columbia University that one of their staff, who they have already reprimanded for harassing pro-Palestine protesters, is coming after him and has put a target on his back. They don't do anything.
No.
They don't do anything. And, of course, within days, he is apprehended. The message was especially notable given several reports, of ICE being spotted on campus throughout the week, and Columbia's own guidance published this weekend about potential visits to campus by ICE. In the memo, the school said faculty and staff should not interfere in exigent circumstances where ICE agents seek access to university buildings or people without a warrant. Columbia University and letterer did not immediately respond to Ziteo's requests for comments. Davidai, who had been suspended from campus last year over allegations he had harassed university staff, denied collaborating with the Trump administration to get Khalil deported. Let me be absolutely clear. I have never had a direct line to the administration. Even if I did, I would never use such influence to target an individual.
Sure
you would. Yeah. This is not who I am or what I stand for, Davidai told Ziteo. Like many, I've called out Khalil's repeated legal violations and demanded accountability. But as I always remind my students, just because one event follows another doesn't mean it caused it. Logic 101. Are you a logic teacher? Wow, that's amazing. Again, no one has cited any of these illegal actions. No one has cited what he did wrong that violated the law. Khalil's March 7th email came after an earlier January 31st email he sent, in which he urged the school to take immediate action to protect international students at Columbia facing severe and pervasive doxing, discriminatory harassment, and very possibly deportation in retaliation for the lawful exercising of their rights to freedom of speech, expression, and association. So once again, you have an example where the narrative is that Jewish students are being harassed. No evidence of that whatsoever. There's a long history of documented evidence that actually pro-Palestine protesters are being harassed. He brings this to the attention of the school, saying that a guy who you've already punished for this exact reason is doing it again. Only this time the stakes are a lot higher because the new sheriff in town wants to deport the foreign students who are on his shit list. Nothing. They tell the staff, don't worry whether they have a warrant or not. Let them do what they got to do. Private property. Columbia University, right? They shouldn't have to let them in without a warrant, but they're rolling over.
Yeah, if there's any bright spot to all of this, it has exposed these liberal academic institutions as the money-grubbing whores and hypocrites that they actually are.
Yes.
These are the same exact people who wanted you to know how much they stand for values of freedom and intellectual diversity and racial and identity diversity. And they just completely rolled over to a literal settler colonial genocide project easily. It didn't even take a lot. Just took putting their presidents in front of Congress, grilling them a little bit. And they didn't even, this is the beautiful part, they didn't even get the money.
Right. They got defunded anyway.
They got defunded anyway, which you would think would make the other ones say, well, why are we going to cooperate with this? But they're all whores. They're all whores, cowards. They have investments in defense and weapons manufacturers. They're scum. They've never been what they pretend to be. And I hope as an American, I hope we're able to come out to the other side of this. I don't know if I've ever been an accelerationist, but I think the accelerationists are getting their wish here. This is all going to wind up discrediting everybody in government, including Trump and people who support him. You guys are going to be discredited. You're already being discredited daily. But how does this make America great?
Yeah,
Does it make Israel great? All of these powerful totems in our society are being discredited. And maybe to white pill a little bit, maybe that'll open up an opportunity for this whole right-left paradigm to go away and for the people to get together and actually get what they actually want, which I don't believe this is what anybody really wants other than these Zionists, which are a very small percentage of the population globally and domestically.
All right. Well, Shai Davidai isn't the only familiar face that we're going to be reintroduced to in this story. Khalil cited a threatening post by the pro-Israel organization Betar in January. In the post, the group wrote that he said Zionists don't deserve to live, a statement Khalil unequivocally denied making in his email to university officials. Betar also wrote that ICE is aware of his home address and whereabouts, and that they have provided all his information to multiple contacts. He's on our deport list, Betar added. So here is this Betar group, who we're going to, remind you exactly who they are a little later. But here is their post gloating, bragging about getting Mahmoud Khalil deported. Of course, they say his name, Muhammad, there in the caption.
Betar posted. So on January 29th, Betar posted on Twitter that Muhammad Khalil should get deported. Because he said while he was on a visa that Zionists do not have the right to live. You see how disrespectful this guy is? While he's on a visa, he says we don't have a right to live.
Okay, now just note, obviously, Khalil denied saying that. And, usually when you do these kind of TikTok videos, you show what you're talking about. So if there's any documentation that he actually said that, you'd think you'd put it there. Instead, he does a Kyle Kalinske Marianne job where he just says that's what he said. And, of course, provides no evidence because, of course, we know he didn't say it. I mean,
it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I could guarantee you he did not say that. If he did, there'd be evidence. Like everything everything everyone is saying about this guy, whether it's guys like this, whether it's Shai Davidai, whether it's CNN, whether it's Trump, whether it's Rubio, whether it's ICE, if any of what they were saying about this guy were true, they would have evidence and everybody would know about it. Like everyone would know. But you have not seen a shred of evidence. All the video we have of this guy is giving very measured interviews like the one he gave to CNN, which we played a couple segments back. All right, we'll let this guy finish.
Now today, on March 9th, Muhammad Khalil got deported. Is this a coincidence? I don't know. Nardino, thanks for letting us know that it went through. We really appreciate it.
There you go. So openly bragging that they got this guy deported. Now, who are Betar? You may remember these guys. These are the guys who did the famous beeper stunts where they approach people and hand them beepers and pagers in New York City.
And I'm here to help some people out of it. I'm good at converting Islamists. I'm here to give them a pager. Let's see how it goes. Hey, ma'am, you forgot your pager. Oh, hey, what's up? Cereal boy, what's up, baby? How's it going? You forgot your pager. Pager. You want your pager? Cracky. Oh, you're a cracky. Cracky, take a pager. No. You want a pager, Cracky? Oh. Cracky, pager. Oh. Shalom, Stein, boom.
So he obviously is such a prominent harasser of protesters. Like he knows these guys. He recognizes them from several actions. And yet we don't hear about this in the media, that there are Zionists going around taunting people by giving them pagers, which of course, if the circumstances were reversed, that would, of course, be considered a violent threat. No doubt about it. Again, there's no equivalent citation of this happening on the other side. Now, they tried to pull this with Norm Finkelstein, and Norm, boss that he is, responded in perfect Norm fashion. So we'll pull this video up here. Hold on, I just have to grab this because I meant to upload this before. Yep, there we go. There it is.
Over here, and I'm here to help some people out of it.
Oops, what the hell did I do? Oh, sorry, folks. I thought I had that. Yeah, that's it, right?
Over here, and I'm here to help some people.
No, where the hell is it? Did I fuck it up? Do I not have that video? I must not have it. Hold on, let me see if I have it. Sorry. Stand by. Do you want to read some Rumble rants?
Is it in the banners there? Are they in the banners? Where do I find them?
No. I just don't know where I had it. All right.
No, I mean the Rumble rants. I don't know where they are.
Oh, yeah, they're in the banners.
They're in the banners. Okay. All right. Sure. From the top.
Yeah.
Doke. Doc Durkin. I'm just waiting for the Zio right to get too confident and lose their well-scripted discipline and go full Sam Harris, showing how disgusting and racist Israel and his supporters really are, I'm assuming. I think that ship has sailed, man. I think they're already there. As one that draws a lot of water on this page with my $1 rants, may I request you have on TikTok Tunnel Lady. She's a modern day temple grade. Kind of cut off there. Ken Texican. Good point, Russ, on where the hell would I go as a student person of conscience. Hey, man, I mean, I'm not a student and I have no conscience, but I might be leaving myself. We'll see. China Shell, my man. Me and China Shell, we're going to go live in Guangzhou or something. Andrew Jackson, Trump's fave, famously told the SCOTUS, you made ruling, now enforce it. I know, I keep referencing that. When they told him he couldn't commit genocide, trail of tears. Exactly. That's almost inevitable because they're going to keep getting knocked down by the courts. You're going to have a constitutional crisis before this is all over.
All right, here, I got it. That's why I didn't have it, because it was having trouble downloading. But I will. Hold on, I'll share this to the stage. There we go. Okay. All right. So here's Norm Finkelstein dealing with the Betar guys in true Norm fashion.
Norman, how's it going? I got you a pager. Want a pager, Norman?
Jews were known for being smart.
Jews were known for being smart.
Where's your pager, Norman?
You know what?
It's fucking Holocaust tonight, you piece of shit. Want a pager, Norman?
Jews were known for being smart.
There you go. All right, sorry about that, folks, but that was worth sharing. Always worth sharing. Norm Finkelstein knowing how to handle these people here. Okay, all right, where were we? Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. All right. So yes, Betar. It's these people who go around harassing people very proudly, posting it very openly, now taking credit for Mahmoud's arrest and possible deportation. Major Zionist elections coming up, whatever the hell that means. Vote for the ZOA coalition today. We got jihadis deported. So there they are, bragging about it, taking credit for this action. Now, this is from the Columbia Spectator, their paper. In leaked messages, member of Columbia Alumni for Israel group chat worked to identify and punish pro-Palestinian protesters. This was reported just last week, so just a few days before Mahmoud's arrest. Hours into a pro-Palestinian sit-in Wednesday outside Barnard Dean Leslie Grenage's office in protest of the reported expulsion of 2 Barnard students, a faculty mediator approached the group with Grenage's conditions for a meeting. Among them were requirements that demonstrators show their Barnard IDs and remove facial coverings. As protesters and administration continued to negotiate the terms of the meeting, unrest was bubbling in a Columbia Alumni for Israel WhatsApp group chat. In messages obtained by Spectator, members demanded to disclose the protesters' identities. Group chat members shared names of students allegedly affiliated with pro-Palestinian student groups, focusing on identifying students who are allegedly leaders of the organizations. Members called for the expulsion, arrest, and deportation of pro-Palestinian protesters, according to the messages obtained by Spectator. Quote, we should not care what they want or don't want. We should consider first what results we want and how to achieve them. Victor Muslin, SEAS of 1982, wrote in a message obtained by Spectator. That being said, we need the powers that be to squash them like roaches. Ignoring roaches in one's house is possible, but who wants to live that way? See, at the end of the day, I mean, this all just boils down to just abject racism. I mean, this is really what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beyond coordinated campaigns to identify student protesters, members use the group chat to circulate and amplify social media posts targeting individual Palestinian and pro-Palestinian student organizers and faculty, an open letter advocating for the firing of a Columbia administrator, and an email template discouraging companies from hiring pro-Palestinian student activists. So here is a faculty member at Columbia University, Professor Catherine Frank. How is Columbia faculty responding to the abduction of Mahmoud Khalil by ICE? Here she corroborates a lot of this reporting.
Frankie, now a retired member of the Columbia Law faculty. I just left the campus where there's a rally going on of outraged faculty expressing their just immense concern for our former student, Mahmoud Khalil. He was abducted by ICE at a university building over the weekend after having written to the president of the university asking for help. The university, I have to say, facilitated this abduction, having pursued disciplinary charges against him for over a year that were clearly baseless, and when we proved it to them that they were baseless, the charges were not dismissed, they put a target on his back, and they provided no protection for him over the last several days. The universities have two most sacred commitments and missions. One, to keep our students safe, and second, to educate them. We have to say that Columbia abridged those two sacred missions so abominably in this case, in Mahmoud's case. We hope his safe release immediately takes place, and we wish he and his family well.
So there you have it, straight from the faculty themselves. They facilitated this abduction. And it's just, I mean, it's just so sickening. And this is why I said last year, this university should be out of business. What self-respecting person would set foot on this campus? After a year, you sicked the NYPD on these people, hundreds and hundreds of officers and ladders in a big show and violently attacking the protesters. Now you have the guy comes to you for help saying he's being harassed by people. One of them, the university themselves has reprimanded in the past. The other, a known open harasser of protesters, guys who go around putting beepers in people's pockets. Those, if a Palestinian did that, they'd be in fucking jail. If a pro-Palestinian protester did that, they'd be in fucking prison.
Oh, absolutely.
To make that kind of threat against somebody.
Yeah. No question. And this, unlike what they're claiming that Khalil did, is on video.
Right.
We actually have video of that.
Yeah.
No, we have that.
They don't do anything?
What was the university where they had footage of the Zionists like throwing fireworks?
Oh, that was UCLA, where they threw the
UCLA,
fire grenade, the fireworks into the encampment. Yeah.
Right. What happened to those people? What, there was nobody there on a green card. You didn't have any Israelis there on a green card that you could deport. Yeah, they'll never do that. With Columbia, because these kinds of Ivy League institutions are so much about social climbing for the people who apply to them, they have so many more times applications than they accept. I don't even know if you could effectively boycott Columbia, because the kind of people who would apply to Columbia or to Harvard and so on, you know, these people just want to be insiders.
Yeah, don't forget they hired Hillary Clinton to teach a class there.
There's a short list of universities where you're almost guaranteed to be an insider if you graduate from them.
Yep. Yeah. So that is a good point. I mean, you know, these kids, God bless these kids, but there are a lot of just like wannabe USAID, regime change staffers that go to Columbia.
Oh, yeah. You'll just lose the best of them.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, that is how it works. But what a despicable institution. How you can ignore those calls for help when you're accusing the pro-Palestine people of doing exactly what these Zionists are doing. And when someone comes to you for help, you ignore them. And then a few days later, they're in a migrant jail in Louisiana, waiting for James Carville's brother-in-law to come with a stack of papers saying, I'm your representation. Speaking of James Carville and the Democrats, I want to do that next. We're going to do Greenwald next. But this is a very short one, folks. So how do you think the Democrats responded to the detention of Mahmoud Khalil? Well, here's a statement from Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries issues a statement on Mahmoud Khalil. Let's read it in its entirety. It's very, very short, as you would expect. Leader Jeffries' statement on ICE arrest at Columbia University. Mahmoud Khalil is a legal permanent resident whose wife, an American citizen, is 8 months pregnant. To the extent his actions were inconsistent with Columbia University policy and created an unacceptable hostile academic environment for Jewish students and others, there is a serious university disciplinary process that can handle the matter. In the context of the arrest and detention of Mahmoud Khalil, DHS must produce facts and evidence of criminal activity. Absent evidence of a crime, such as providing material support for a terrorist organization, the actions undertaken by the Trump administration are wildly inconsistent with the United States Constitution. A judge has blocked this egregious removal pending further action, and along with Attorney General Letitia James, we will continue monitoring this developing situation closely. Another daily reminder to fire Hakeem Jeffries, says Winters Politics. The Liberation Project, wow, how did he have the balls to put out that courageous statement, the first half of which is trashing the guy, right? And just completely parroting the narrative that he was somehow out of bounds for protesting Israel. Wildly inconsistent is an interesting way of saying setting the Constitution on fire. Luca, this message was sponsored and approved by AIPAC. And don't forget, Hakeem Jeffries, a top recipient of AIPAC, $1,635,617. His district has a very large Orthodox Jewish population, and he is one of the most pro-Israel Democrats in the caucus. So it's not really a surprise that he would be really weak on this. Although I got to say, Hakeem Jeffries is getting more shit than like Pelosi ever got, or even Schumer ever got. Like, there's more outrage at him from the base because they're very frustrated because they just see how weak and ineffectual he is. But certainly there are more Democrats willing to stand up, right? Well, 14 of them. Yes, that's right. 14 out of 214 Democrats in the House signed this strongly worded letter. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib tweets out, "I'm joining 13 of my colleagues to demand that the Trump administration immediately releases Mahmoud Khalil. Their illegal actions set a dangerous precedent. We cannot allow them to shred our constitutional rights to free speech and due process. Free Mahmoud Khalil." So here they are. Those are the signatures of all of them. The font is very small. It's who you would expect, more or less. But 14 out of 214, fewer than 10% of House Democrats would sign on to this letter. That's
the resistance,
your opposition,
folks. The resistance stepping up up to the plate.
Yep. That's your opposition right there. And, this is why I said, I have seen more frustration expressed with Hakeem Jeffries and party leaders in the past. He's not really getting the mama bear moment, because that moment that he had went so viral of him saying, well, it's their government now. What are we going to do? But even if it wasn't the Republicans' government, there are only 14 Democrats willing to sign a letter that demands the release of a man who is charged with no crime. He's charged with no crime, and he's sitting in a migrant jail in Louisiana, and only 14 members of the 214-member caucus in the opposition party will sign a letter saying he shouldn't be kept in jail with no charge? Yep.
Well, Nancy Pelosi was there for the Obama administration, which the libs see as a high watermark, as a triumph, whatever the reality. That's how they see it, so they associate her with that. So by the time you got into the Trump era, she was well positioned to place herself as a resistance leader. And that also coincided with kind of like peak girl boss feminism, which she was very good at playing to. And she was very good at the kind of empty gestures that libs eat up, like clapping sarcastically at the State of the Union, which Jeffries doesn't seem to have as much skill with.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
she was good at signaling to the Dem base.
Yeah, that she was. That she was. So she kind of skated on that. But these are much more severe times. And you see, I mean, how pathetic is it? Only 14 of 214 House members?
Yeah. Well, that's why we're not Democrats.
Yep. That's the uniparty. That's the uniparty in action. I mean, can't do much worse than 14. Only 13 numbers smaller than 14. And it's a 214-member caucus. So that's your opposition, because there is no real opposition to Israel in Washington, as we know. Quintessential says, is it fair to say the college movement had lots of protests but no concrete plan, political program to end Gaza genocide? If they X, we Y, when the powerful ignored them, weren't they stuck? I don't know. Well, it's a fair point. I mean, it's a fair point, but, you know, at the same time, what can you do? I mean, we asked Max Blumenthal about this. He says, what can you do except make your voice heard as loud as you can? I mean, that's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing you can do non-violently, which is, of course, the way they're committed to having these protests through non-violent means, and yet they arrest him anyway. Right. I mean, it's just like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Jay Maloney, thanks for the $5. A house with land equals a few hens and veggies, Russ, but yeah, scary time. Yuppies, thanks for the $5. Is Trump to the right of Ann Coulter on deporting a student? Yep, he is to Ann Coulter's right on immigration. That's absolutely true. Pete Sweet, member for 21 months. Hey, Pete Sweet. Russ, I dropped out of the U.S. 10 years ago, living in Bali for the past 5 years. I highly recommend this Hindu island. Best weather in Southeast Asia. Yeah,
I have heard good things about Bali.
Yeah. Bali's supposed to be nice, supposed to be a beautiful place. All right, folks. Let's see. Noah Goop, you can't black pill this gay lord. America, we are so back. There you go. All righty. Okay. John M. in Minnesota, on Social Security, Trump administration has resumed what was once called clawback cruelty. It won't save much in the long run, but it will devastate the poorest among us. Thank you, John. Absolutely. This persecution of Khalil will boomerang on the state oligarchs and donor classes, Dr. Erkin. Wealthy Arab families who can't afford the tuition will no longer send their children to U.S. for higher education. Well, they certainly should not. Absolutely. All right, folks, you have one more Mahmoud Khalil related segment. I told you this was going to be a lot, but this is worth it. So Glenn Greenwald, who we talked with, I should say. I mean, we talk about him a lot too, but we talked with him in December of 2023. And we asked him because, you know, he has the show on Rumble, and because he debunked Russiagate, and because he was anti-Ukraine war, because he thought the January 6ers were overcharged, you know, just like we agree with him on all those things. You know, he attracted a lot of MAGA people in his audience. And we talked to him because we attracted some MAGA people in our audience because we were basically in line with him on all those issues. So we had the same kind of thing happen to our audience. And we said, once you started opposing Israel after October 7th, you know, what happened to your show? And is it a danger that, you know, some people fall victim to audience capture in this space? And so he said, yeah, he said he lost 15 to 20% of his paid subscribers to his show. You know, and he doesn't do the show with a webcam and a USB mic. You know, he's got a studio to pay for. It's a big deal to lose all of those paid subscribers. But this is why he is really one of the GOATs, because he really went off after this Mahmoud Khalil detention. So here's Stephen Miller tweets out, vast numbers of foreign nationals who support terrorism and reject American values have never been awarded visas.
Have been awarded visas.
Pardon me. Revoking them is a national security imperative. We must only admit those, I guess that's his typo, who embrace the core principles of our civilization. So Glenn comes in. Loving and revering Israel is not a core American value. Forcing American workers to subsidize Israel, even though millions of Israelis have a higher standard of living than they do, is not a core American value. Free speech and protest are core American values. So then he goes on. He kind of goes off and he really attacks this from every single angle. And I thought he did a great job. He tweets here, Trump voters were promised mass deportations of immigrants who entered the U.S. illegally. Instead, the Trump administration deported fewer in February than the Biden administration deported in February 2024. Hence the distraction. Look at the legal resident we deported for his political views. Right?
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Ouch is right. Ouch is right. Treating a foreign spouse of an American citizen as some sort of unwanted alien invader who should be deported unless they remain silent is particularly odd for Trump supporters, given that he married two different foreigners who came to the U.S. and were green card holders. Ouch again. Ouch again.
One of which did soft porn.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So one guy asked him here, Ghost Runner Trek Across America, asked, is this the hill to die on? And he says, yes, watching the U.S. government punish and deport people for the crime of criticizing and protesting Israel because Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million and his administration is filled with Israel loyalists is absolutely a hill to die on. Of course it's a hill to die on.
Glenn.
Yes. Like, what do you mean, is this a hill to die on? It's just like, this is just a monstrous...
The cope.
Yeah.
No, that's because what are they going to say? Because in my experience, most MAGA are not Zionists. Most of them are not. Most of them don't like this shit. Most of them hate when Trump goes and dances in front of the Israel flag, bragging about how much he does for Israel. Most of them don't like it. They tolerate it. So what can they retreat to? But, I don't like it, but
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
What else can they do?
Well, yeah, this is the cope, as you said. Like, is this a hill to die on? Implies like, we don't like this in principle, but the guy seems like a bad guy, and so we're really going to make a big deal out of this, right? I mean, do we really have to make a big deal? And Glenn, obviously, his speech and journalism are his passions, and so he says, yes, obviously. And if you really want to know what are core American values, these tweets might be out of order. I couldn't keep track of them, so these are not all necessarily in sequence. If you really want to know what are core American values, you can first look to the Bill of Rights, which applies to everyone legally in the United States, citizen or not. If you are here legally, you have First Amendment protections. This is the other thing the MAGA people, the chuds, try and hide behind. Whoa! He's here on a visa. So what does that mean? That means he has to kiss the American flag 3 times a day? No. Like, if you're here legally, you live under our laws. But also read what Washington and Jefferson said when warning of the dangers of enduring attachments to foreign countries. So here's George Washington's farewell address, which he linked to. It is our true policy to steer clear of permanent alliances with any portion of the foreign world. So far, as we are now at liberty to do it. For let me not be understood as capable of patronizing infidelity to existing engagements. And of course, Thomas Jefferson, very anti-woke Thomas Jefferson, what I deem the essential principles of our government, peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. So here's King of Napa Valley, comes for some. You're whining is at its peak over a Syrian green card holder that actively hates the country he lives in and organizes illegal protests that turn violent, take over property, and prohibit students from using facilities they pay for, none of which is true, and no posts ever on Hamas's war crimes. So Glenn comes back at him. Absolutely hilarious that conservatives now say that protesting a policy of the Biden administration means you hate America. Yes. See, so the difference between King of Napa Valley and Glenn Greenwald is that Glenn is openly gay and very secure and comfortable and happy who he is. That's the major difference between those two. I also love the sudden right-wing view that protests must be demure and quiet after the COVID protests on January 6th. See, this takes balls because now you're really hitting them where they have the most in their feelings. Like, this is really hitting them where it hurts, right? And as someone who defended the January 6th protesters, I thought they were, on a whole, really outrageously overcharged. You do have to admit that was a rowdy protest. Like, I'm not going to say that was not a rowdy protest, right? And so to go there when so much of your audience is MAGA aligned, that takes some fucking stones right there to go there, and the protest and the COVID protests as well. I find it quite charming, these new etiquette rules from some conservatives about how protests must be demure, unintrusive, and rule-abiding. January 6th aside, I recall during COVID when armed protesters trespassed state capitals to denounce and violate mask and lockdown rules, and he post a photo of these fine gentlemen here with the wow face. Yeah, imagine they were pro-Palestine protesters. Imagine the reaction to that, right? Yeah. And so good on him for going there because, that's a place that is very risky to go when you have an audience that, even by his own admission, and I don't fault him for this, we had a similar audience dynamic ourselves for a while there, has a lot of MAGA in it. But that's called keeping it real. That's called keeping it real. You can't call these protests outrageous and improper and threatening when you support this. Now, you could support, look, I don't know what the rules are. I don't know state by state what the open carry laws are regarding bringing guns to a courthouse. That seems like a fairly threatening thing to do. I don't know the legality of it depending on the jurisdiction. But what I do know is that if those were pro-Palestine protesters doing that, you would be calling for their arrest and imprisonment and, yes, deportation of anyone.
Absolutely.
And so good on him for keeping it. You just got to keep it real there. You got to keep, because they're such fucking hypocrites. And he's totally right. Totally right. Those COVID protests, if protests of that character were oriented towards Israel-Palestine, outrage from the right. If a January 6th style event happens in the name of the pro-Palestine cause, forget it. Forget it. Forget it to be martial law.
Completely the opposite.
We'd be in lockdown.
These
oddly enough,
need to be locked up and throw away the keys, send them to Guantanamo. Oh my God! If January 6th were a left-oriented protest,
exactly.
Oh my! If that were to keep Biden in office,
right? Exactly. Right. Exactly. So just good on him.
No, we've seen this hypocrisy, and look, going forward, I've held out hope. I've critiqued. I haven't gone out of my way with people that I've hoped would come around, but I'm very heartened to hear that Taibbi and Kern talked about this. I have felt that Taibbi, who openly said he didn't want to cover this Israel subject, I feel that was a big mistake for him because it touches on so many other subjects. It really limited what he could cover. And it's just glaring when you're a free major voice in exposing censorship, that the biggest censorship story of your time is something you've tied your hands and said you're not going to cover. So what it reflects badly on legitimate stories that you're doing because, oh, well, you'll cover the countering digital hate, but you won't cover these students getting their heads cracked at Columbia. But I have felt, look, as this administration more and more shows its true colors, I think people are going to have to make a choice. And that's when you're really going to see, man. So like I said, I'm very glad to hear that Taibbi and Kern covered that. Glenn, he was never going to bend that knee. Lee Fang, I always sing his praises. That guy doesn't know the meaning of audience capture. I hope he stays that way. I think he will. But you got a lot of these people, man, who have just who just tweeted. Was it Glenn who just tweeted out that Mehdi Hassan has lost his mind because he was compared? Yeah, he compared Greenwald to Barry Weiss as somebody who bent the knee to powerful interests, meaning he's gone MAGA.
Right.
Well, this stuff. How does that square with this? If anything, Barry Weiss is completely on the opposite side.
Yeah. I saw somebody in the chat post that, maybe Dore opened him up. Yeah, he was on Jimmy. Jimmy pressed him on the Israel issue, and then he talked about
him on that quite a lot.
So that's good because, look, I mean, I've always thought Matt was a great guy, and great at what he does, obviously. But yeah, this especially is unavoidable. Like you have no reputation, like you have no credibility if you don't talk about this.
Right.
This is just an outrageous.
Especially when you specialize in speech and censorship.
The fucking guy is in jail 1,000 miles from home with a pregnant wife who's an American citizen. He did nothing. The man didn't do anything. Like, this gets lost in this because this is how propaganda works. They'll just spin up they will just gin up such a hysteria and such ill will towards people of certain persuasions or certain races or of certain opinions or of certain national backgrounds that you forget to ask yourself, what did this guy do? And what was he accused of doing? Answer, nothing.
Right.
Nothing. He didn't do anything. There's no evidence of him doing anything. There's no video of him saying anything that constitutes a threat. Nothing. The man did nothing. The man expressed opinions about politics, which not everybody is going to like, but as a legal resident of the United States, he has the absolute right to express whatever political opinion he wants. He did nothing wrong at all. So if you have nothing to say about this, you're dog shit. You're dog shit. Like you can't not say anything about this.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm glad that this administration is so early showing its cards, because that's giving people the opportunity to decide what side do you want to be on, man. Look, I understand that honeymoon period. Everybody wants to feel like, God damn it, I wouldn't have thought it, but Trump is going to turn out to be a great president. I get getting caught up in that enthusiasm, especially as you see these organizations that a lot of people on the left have always hated, like NED and USAID and the FBI and the CIA getting their comeuppance. I get it. But it was always pretty clear, I think, what they were doing those things for and in service of, and where all this was going. And sometimes even the thing that you hate could be worse. And I think they're showing you what worse looks like very, very quickly, not slowly, quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we're only 6 weeks in. I mean,
we're only 6 weeks in.
It kind of felt like it feels like it's been a year, but it is not. It's been 6 weeks.
You didn't get your Epstein files, but you're getting gross violations of the First Amendment.
Yeah, yeah, and attempts to just ravage Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, which we'll get to. Yeah. I think next, right? Is that what we're doing next? All right, let's take some super chats and get some stuff, get some business taken care of between now and then. Hey, one order of business, folks, is I want to tell you about one of our dissident artists who's a sponsor of the show, a bard and a guitar. He has an album called Dogmatics. Dogmatics is a musical retelling of the Jonah fable in a modern-day setting. The satire album follows a bard and a guitar tasked by God to help the people of a city whose politics he can't stand, featuring reinterpretations of All the Girls Go Crazy, No Irish Need Apply, and Love Me, I'm a Liberal. Find it on most music streaming platforms by searching for Dogmatics by a bard and a guitar, or you can make it really easy and just go to this nifty hyperlink that we have, dodissidents.com/bard, to check out this album by one of our dissident sponsors and artists. We've had some sponsor opportunities open up, so if you would like to help sponsor this show by helping us get the word out about your project, be it a small business, an art project, a book, a podcast, music, anything like that, just go to dodissidents.com/sponsors. Everybody go and check out A Bard and a Guitar by Dogmatics at dodissidents.com/bard. And anybody who's interested in doing this kind of arrangement with us, dodissidents.com/sponsors.
We should plug my tour at some point.
Yeah. Why don't we do the scroll after this segment? I'll prep it during the segment, and then we'll do it.
Okey-doke.
All righty. Samuel Bruce, thanks for the $9.99. Keaton, I don't agree with your Columbia University take, as we are only reacting to their crackdowns because they allowed protests to begin with. Are all these other universities allowing protests, or have they chilled speech? Well, other universities have chilled speech. I'm not saying Columbia is not the only one to chill speech, but I'm saying they made the most public show of the police coming in and cracking down.
And, the BDS movement, they don't advise trying to rally people to boycott every product connected to Israel, because that's just not effective. Pick a couple to make an example of. So that's what you do. Tactically, Columbia is the most visible. They certainly deserve it. So if you were going to get a boycott university movement going, focus it on Columbia.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
To scare the others.
Yeah, no, it's not just because I'm not talking about the others doesn't mean I give the others a free pass, or that they are, all that much worse than the others. Although, that police presence there, I mean, they're the most notable, especially since they're the ones who have already been defunded for not going far enough, right? I mean, that's what brings that into national attention. Baron Saturday, you guys are absolute maniacs. Thanks, Baron Saturday. I don't know if you mean that as a compliment, a joke, or a criticism, but you've been here before, so I'm assuming it was one of the former two. Move to Bogota, Keaton, says Camilo Chavez. It's in the 60s all year round. Watch out for your phone, though. All right. Thank you for that. Janice Anderson, thanks for the $4.99. 2016, her supporters, meaning Hillary's, were the most disgusting, misogynistic, vile, threatening predators online. Told me I wanted to be hard. All right. Well, yeah, no, I believe you. Well, look, I mean, one of the people who was really the target of a lot of that was Breonna Joy Gray, especially the second campaign, because that's when she worked on the campaign. Yeah, she would get all kinds of just like the worst, like racist and sexist attacks. Okay. Noah Goop, Trump just resumed aid and intel sharing to Ukraine because they accepted for an insane framework for a deal that Russia will 100% not accept. We are so back. Oh, did that break today? Oh, we must have missed
What
that.
is this? What
the news
happened?
goes too fast. Trump just resumed aid and intel sharing to Ukraine. Wow. So, all right. That is, that's something we'll have to maybe do for Thursday for sure. Okay. Luigi vaccine pew pew. Wait, I seem to remember a stupid ruling. The money equals speech. So even if they were paid, that is still free speech. Better overturn that ruling. LOL. Thank you. Come to Denmark. Speech and education and healthcare are all free. I hope it lasts, at least till I'm dead. Thank you, Judy. Denmark. Denmark seems like a wonderful place. All right. Why don't we move on with the...
Hang on, just for laughs, I found that thing. Can you see it? Or do I have to add it?
You have to add it. Where is it? Screen share? There it
is. Yeah, there we go. All right, but then I have to go back to control it. All right, so I'm wrong. It wasn't Shailene Woodley. It was Emily
Ratajkowski. The model, yeah.
It was her, actually. So here's some of the stuff from the Hillbots. I find it funny how we care about the opinion of someone who is famous for being naked in a music video. And that's why models should stay away from politics. Proof that all you are is a pretty face. Stay out of politics.
What was she in, the Blurred Lines video?
She was in that Blurred Lines video where she was, yes, mostly naked as most
MAGA
of the,
should bring that song
most
back.
of the women.
They should bring that back as their anthem. End of woke.
Oh, she's a moron with no clue about politics. Unfollowed. Used to think you were hot. It's pretty sexist. Just another mindless beauty. This generation has no idea where the money will come from, idiot. Pretty right-wing thing to say to her.
Yeah.
Maybe if you put your tits away, I could hear your voice. Wow. You know, I didn't see the New York Times talking about the Hillary bros.
Right.
I didn't see any of that. So yeah, that article is still out there. Surprisingly, it came from the Huffington Post.
Yep. There you go. All right. Why don't we move on to segment number whatever it is, the second to the last one. Tesla, right?
All right. So look, man. I mean, the Trump administration just day after day is making the First Amendment great again, really fighting to protect your freedom of speech and your right to boycott. Oh, no. To Republicans, conservatives, and all great Americans, Elon Musk is putting it on the line, in quotes for no reason anyone understands, in order to help our nation. And he is doing a fantastic job. But the radical left lunatics, as they often do, are trying to illegally and collusively boycott Tesla.
Collusively.
One of the world's great automakers and Elon's baby, again in weird quotes, in order to attack and do harm to Elon and everything he stands for. They tried to do it to me at the 2024 presidential ballot box, but how did that work out? In any event, I'm going to buy a brand new Tesla tomorrow morning. I'm not going to drive it, but I'll buy it.
Right.
As a show of confidence and support for Elon Musk, a truly great American. Why should he be punished for putting his tremendous skills to work in order to help put seniors on the corner selling pencils again? No, he said, to make America great again. All right. So I don't know, man. Last I heard, boycotting was a time-honored American tradition, a time-honored way of expressing dissent, just like protest. Last I heard, Elon thanks him, though. Great American that he is, doesn't say, well, you know, actually, boycotting is actually very American. No, he didn't say that. He says, thank you, President Donald Trump.
It's an American as Bud Light.
It's American as Bud Light. You know, I seem to recall, here's Team USA. Bars and liquor stores across America are ditching Bud Light, and it's a beautiful sight to see. Go woke, go broke, Budweiser. I seem to remember they were all about boycotting Bud Light. Nobody said anything about consumer choice constituting illegal collusion. Or you might remember another one. I haven't shopped at Target for almost a year, and many of my friends haven't either. Their promotion of dangerous gender ideology to children is unacceptable. Don't keep patronizing businesses that hate your values right to your face, proud to boycott Target. And now you're getting a boycott in the other direction. Target just can't, they're getting it from both ends. Now they're getting boycotted because they just dismantled their DEI program. I don't see Trump saying anything about that being an illegal boycott of Target. I didn't see it then. I don't see it now. So here, Wu-Tang is for the children posted to sum it up very well. So when the libs boycott Tesla, it's illegal. But when MAGAs say they're boycotting Bud Light, Disney, NFL, or whatever else they find woke, that's patriotic. Okay. All right. So the hypocrisy is pretty obvious. This is kind of light and kind of funny and kind of tongue in cheek. But hey, man, it's pretty scary, as we will get into, because this is a pattern. They are trying to make dissent illegal by conflating dissent with activities that are illegal, like violence, like terrorism, like market collusion. A bunch of consumers deciding they don't want to buy Teslas. It's not market collusion, not even if an organization urges a boycott. That's freedom of speech to urge a boycott. Republicans have certainly never been shy about that, and Republican organizations have never been shy about boycotting. So Elon's having a very rough time this week, though. I think that's what inspired it. March 10th was kind of a T-Day. It was low T-Day for Elon and Tesla. So he actually went on with Larry Kudlow to talk about his many woes as a multi-hundred billionaire.
You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean.
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and so far we're making good progress, actually.
It's very difficult, having great difficulty running my own businesses.
Study after study shows that after people retire, they don't live very long because they lose their sense of purpose. So we want to take away that Social Security because we want grandma to live longer. The struggle to not eat cat food at least 3 days a week. That's what keeps people alive. I know it's counterintuitive, but really.
Studies show you're much likely to live longer if you work 12 hours a day until you're 82.
That's in Micronesia, they figured that out hundreds of years ago. That's why they live to be 127 on average. They have warehouses set up all over Micronesia that you work in until you die. So Elon is probably not just feeling down because the courts are correctly ruling that a lot of what he's trying to do is illegal. He also, look, even with his money, man, losing billions of dollars in a day is tough. Elon Musk's empire shaken. Tesla tumbles. X crashes amid U.S. recession fears. Elon Musk faced significant setbacks on March 10th, with Tesla's stock plummeting by over 15%, and his social media platform X experiencing major outages. The twin crises coincided with market panic and increasing criticism of Musk's political ties to Trump's administration. Additionally, Tesla's declining sales and growing competition, particularly from China's BYD, compound the challenges. March 10th was a brutal day for Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest person. Tesla's stock took a sharp nosedive. His social media platform X suffered widespread outages due to what he called a massive cyber attack, and protests against his leadership role in President Trump's administration continued across the U.S. There's a group, actually, of pro-Palestine hacktivists who have taken responsibility for that. Tesla shares plunged more than 15% on Monday, extending their brutal year-to-date decline to nearly 45% since January. 45%. As investors worried about slowing sales, increased competition, and CEO Elon Musk's growing political entanglements. Adding to Musk's woes, his social media platform X suffered widespread outages, with tens of thousands of users reporting disruptions. Musk blamed a massive cyber attack that he claimed was likely orchestrated by a large coordinated group and or a country. As far as I know, there's no evidence of a country being behind it, but a group did claim credit. Keaton, you can look up the name of that group while I'm doing this.
Yeah, we had it. We looked it up before the show. I forgot what it is.
The Tesla's $125 billion market cap wipeout came amid a broader sell-off in U.S. stocks. In fact, these twin crises for Musk unfolded against a broader backdrop of market panic. The NASDAQ tumbled 4%, its worst single-day performance since 2022, while the S&P 500 and Dow Jones also fell sharply. Investors fear the Trump administration's shifting stance on tariffs and economic policy could trigger a slowdown. Treasury Secretary, and I will add George Soros alumni, Scott Bessent's warning of a detox period as public spending is slashed only heightened those concerns. Look, once you learn to live with less, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to feel much better. Tesla's post-election rally has evaporated, with shares now trading 11% lower than they were on the day Trump won the presidency. Now,
Dark Storm was the name of the group.
Dark Storm. So now, and they are a pro-Palestine hacktivist group. So Tesla still trades at a ridiculous market value relative to its profits and earnings. Its multiple is insane. I think it's over 100. But hey, when you look at the reality of the challenges that Tesla is now facing, it only makes sense that it would face a sell-off aside from the tariffs. Obviously, as it said, the market was down 4%, but Tesla was down 15%. This is, I'm sure, part of the reason why. Tesla sales in Germany plunged by 59.5% in January 2025 and 76.3% in February. In Australia, the EV maker's deliveries dropped 65.5% in the first 2 months of 2025. Tesla's February 2025 sales in China fell 49.16%, signaling a market share decline. You know, what's really interesting about the fact that Musk, his line of attack on Social Security is that it's a Ponzi scheme, is that Tesla stock is a Ponzi scheme. And not just Tesla stock. You could make a good argument that the entire stock market is a Ponzi scheme. Right. You've got a company trading at, I believe over 100 times its forward earnings on the basis that people will keep buying the stock to keep it at that level. Now, the second you run out of new suckers to buy that stock, it would collapse like a Ponzi scheme. You can only maintain the stock at that level as long as you keep new money coming into the stock.
Right.
And again, that's not just Tesla. You could describe the entire stock exchange that way at this point. That's one Ponzi scheme he doesn't seem to want to draw attention to, like his own company.
No, because people like him can loot that treasury. They can loot that pool anytime they want.
Right. Exactly.
Where Social Security, you can't.
Tesla faces vandalism and protests amid backlash against Elon Musk. Funny little quote at the bottom there. I'm getting Nazi salutes from Subarus. Tesla drivers targeted by anti-Elon Musk sentiment. And this is a point a guest made, I believe, on Squawk Box on CNBC. He said, hey, a lot of people who may like Elon's politics are not going to want to buy a Tesla because who wants to deal with that grief? Who wants to risk that the car is going to get vandalized when you're not there?
Right.
Like, why deal with that headache? Also, look, they don't allow it to be sold in the United States. People overseas say the Chinese BYD is actually much better than Tesla. I can't say whether that's true or not, but a lot of very smart people are saying that.
Sounds like something that is 100% true.
It sounds true. It sounds true. Like people have said, if they allowed BYD in this country, that would be the end of Tesla, and that's why they don't.
Yeah. Like, you don't sever your Achilles tendon if you close the door on your foot. You don't like I'm sure that's designed with much more care.
Yeah. You can't use the trunk as a vegetable slicer.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
The Tesla protests are getting bigger and rowdier. This is from The Verge. So here's some video of what New York's finest is doing to protect each person's Cybertruck at this protest.
Thank God the police are here to protect the Cybertruck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cops to protect one Cybertruck. Amazing.
9 cops.
Yeah, there was a great tweet. I don't know if you put it in the slideshow. I retweeted it. Great tweet of a picture of the cops lined up outside of the Tesla dealership. And what did it say here? Yeah, not sure I've ever seen a more obvious picture to remind us that police exist to protect the property of the ruling class, not the rights of the people. Yeah, it's like probably, according to this photo, estimating like 20 or 30 cops lined up outside a Tesla dealership. Yeah.
All right.
With
so
no
we
protest that I know of anywhere near it.
All right. I think that, we did have a protest at the it doesn't look like there's a protest going on in that image, in that video. But this past Saturday, I think it was, Jordan was out there covering it. There was a protest at the Tesla dealership in the meatpacking district. Here's some footage from that.
Musk has got to go! Elon Musk has got to go! Elon Musk got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey!
So, and there are more of these planned, I believe, this weekend. This weekend, protests escalated at Tesla showrooms across the nation. Hundreds of people gathered to boycott Elon Musk and his involvement in the Trump administration as the head of Doge, which is overseeing a massively disruptive effort to fire thousands of federal workers to slash government spending. Now, by the way, their proposed budget, in case anyone does not know or has forgotten, includes over $400 billion in tax cuts that will mostly accrue to members of Elon and Donnie's class. So all of this emergency hair on fire is really about securing a tax cut for themselves. It's not about bringing the budget in line and living within our means. If it was, they wouldn't do those tax cuts, right? They're really concerned about that. All of this is taking America, holding it by its ankles and shaking it for loose change because these people are so greedy that having all the money you could ever spend in 100 lifetimes is not enough for them. The basic idea that they don't have everything, it keeps them up at night. They got to take it from you. Most of these protests are associated with the Tesla takedown movement that first emerged in February. It encourages supporters to, quote, sell your Teslas, dump your stock, join the picket lines as part of efforts to stop Musk. but momentum has ramped up significantly in the past week, leading to bigger turnouts and some arrests. Though most of these protests have been peaceful, there have been separate reports of vandalism and arson directed at Tesla. Last week, now understand, this is separate. These things are not happening at the protests. There are separate acts of vandalism against Tesla. What they are trying to do is very dishonestly make that one thing in order to create a pretense for treating protest as illegal. The same thing that they're doing with the pro-Palestine protests. Last week, Tesla charging stations in Boston were set ablaze, while dozens of vehicles were torched at a dealership in France. Gunshots shattered windows and damaged cars at a Tesla showroom in Oregon, and a Boston man was arrested for slapping stickers of Musk making a Nazi-like salute on Tesla vehicles. And Colorado authorities arrested a woman accused of tossing Molotov cocktails at Tesla cars parked at a dealership and allegedly spray painting an expletive at the entrance. So now Amuse, which is an Elon simp account that or it could be Elon's burner account, but he certainly elevates it quite a lot in the algorithm, retweets it and quotes it a lot. So he retweets this from Amuse. Terror. Multiple Democrat NGOs have coordinated attacks on Tesla dealerships, staff, and vehicles. Last night, a number of Cybertrucks were torched in Seattle. Democrats are becoming increasingly more desperate and violent. And of course, Elon with his very typical short reply, quote, "This is crazy." Okay, so this is the tactic that they're going to deploy. And it's very dangerous. They are conflating a lot of different things. Yes, you have NGOs that are calling to boycott Tesla. That's completely in bounds. It's a tactic Republicans use all the time to boycott brands that they feel are offending their sensibilities. They're trying to conflate the fact that there is some separate vandalism not connected to those efforts, with those efforts, to create a pretext for a legal crackdown, or what would really be an illegal crackdown under the pretense of it being legal. Now, here's a very good example of the kinds of tactics I'm used in a whole thread. Here's a good example of the way that they distort. Most people aren't going to sit there and watch this video, right? There are no celebrities in it. Terror. Valerie Costa of Seattle, Washington, openly admits to stalking and threatening Elon Musk and Tesla, claiming she draws inspiration from Luigi Mangione. Okay, so that's not what happens in this video. So let's take a look, just so you get an idea of the tactics that they're going to rely on now and going forward.
Maybe we could start off with a little bit of, can you just actually tell us what Tesla Takedown is? Or
Yeah,
it's not Takedown Tesla, it's Tesla Takedown.
Tesla Takedown. Yeah, there's a website called TeslaTakedown.com, which is a website you can go to, get some background on.
You hear that, everyone? Go to TeslaTakedown.com. TeslaTakedown.com, the perfectly legal site that is coordinating boycott efforts against Tesla. That is TeslaTakedown.com.
The campaign, and it essentially is a map where anybody in the world can put an action up for targeting Tesla. And so I've been involved in that campaign, and in particular planning actions in the Seattle area targeting Tesla.
In Tesla Takedown, there's a spirit out there, which had already, as we saw with Luigi Mangione, there's a spirit which is very anti-corporate, very anti-billionaire, very anti-sort of elite. And Tesla Takedown is also tapping into some of that spirit as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would say it's just what I've noticed being involved in organizing in the Seattle area for some time, especially after the election and the inauguration. People were like, what do? We don't want to just waste our energy protesting.
Okay. She did not say that she is inspired by the spirit of Luigi Mangione.
No.
The interviewer said we can see there's an anti-corporate, anti-billionaire spirit out there, which she doesn't even really directly build on that too much. She just kind of continues with, yeah, you know, there's a lot of protest. She did not at all. She did not at all say what it was. It was he. Let's go back and take a look, so you can really see what tactics they're using. Openly admits to stalking and threatening Elon Musk and Tesla. She talks about organizing boycotts, stalking and threatening Elon Musk and Tesla. I thought the liberals were the snowflakes.
Right.
I thought the Democrats were the snowflakes.
Well, then saying she draws inspiration. No, these people, they're just liars. They're just shameless liars. All of them. The whole lot of them. Every single one of these people lie as easily as they tell the truth. That's what Christopher Hitchens said about Bill Clinton. He lies as easily as he tells the truth.
Well,
right?
this is
meaning it's effortless. It's habit. That's what they do out of habit. They just lie.
And this is what's so dangerous about this moment, because there is no authority that everybody trusts anymore. There's no such thing. So these people can say anything. Yeah. They can say anything. We were talking about this because in the next segment, we're going to cover the FAA and the outlet that, look, there are no trustworthy, well-funded corporate outlets. You double and triple check their facts against others. Now, the outlet that best compiled all of the reporting I saw in many different places about what's happening at the FAA is The Atlantic. Now, we can say as sure as the sun is going to come up tomorrow, although these days it's not a sure bet either. But assuming the sun comes up tomorrow, as soon as we drop that video, oh, you're using The Atlantic? That's not a freaking argument, man. That's not an argument. We use the New York Post. We use the Daily Wire. You know, like we'll use anything if it checks out. Exactly. But now you've had people who have been convinced that the most trustworthy source of inspiration, information, is whatever Elon tweets. Right. As really, really dangerous as we can see here. All right, so let's watch the rest of this.
The sake of protesting, and especially in Seattle, and I would say on the West Coast, I'm sure it's true of many places, we're really far from the center of power in government. And I think as it became clear that Elon Musk was taking on this outsized role at the federal level, totally, I would say, criminal role nationally, we're like, oh, wait, like we can target Elon here because his company, the source of the majority of his wealth, has numerous locations in the Seattle area, and ultimately money talks. And we've planned, whether it was troublemakers or partners that we've been working with over the last few weeks, have planned multiple actions at Tesla.
Okay. She doesn't describe stalking. No. She talks about money, dealerships. Oh, he's based out here. We can protest. They're making it like, yeah, that's what she said in the interview. Yeah, I'm hanging around in the bushes outside his house. Said nothing about stalking him personally, going to him personally. But they would have you believe, especially if you don't watch the video, openly admits to stalking and threatening Elon Musk and Tesla. You just heard what she said. Did she say anything like that? Claim she draws inspiration from Luigi Mangione? She didn't say that. She didn't say any of that. They're relying on you just to look at the tweet and say, oh my God, poor Elon. Yep. You know what's trending today? You want to talk about simpery? You know what's trending on Twitter? Thank you, Elon.
Yeah. And look at how many views that
it's not ironic.
346,000. That's how fast bullshit
at the time that I
screenshot.
screenshot.
Now it's more. Yeah.
And now another part of this thread, terror. Democrats are using Act Blue to raise money for their attacks on Tesla. And if you click into the article, you know whose article it is? His, yeah. It's his article that he wrote. This is the pattern. Okay, Act Blue, a lot of organizations, you know, left organizations nominally, use it for their fundraising. Oh, well, now that you've made the argument that all of these boycotts and protests against Tesla are a form of terrorism, well, then the groups that fundraise, that promote boycotts against Tesla are using Act Blue to fund terrorism. Right. Now Act Blue is funding terrorism, right? Like this is look, right now, I mean, we're not really laughing it off, but a little bit. Not going to be funny when they really start to try to prosecute groups like Act Blue as funders of terrorism. Now, of course,
well, in Act Blue's case, it will be a little funny, but
maybe a little bit. No. But he names in the article Indivisible and DSA as basically, he doesn't come out and say it this way, but he's basically saying they're using Act Blue to fund terroristic activities against Tesla. Now, part of the reason they might be so comfortable with this and making accusations, they're making a lot of accusations, all these people are being paid, which is absurd. There's no reason anyone would go protest at a Tesla right now. No reason. No reason if you didn't pay them, anybody would do that. They can always rely on the Koch brothers. If you remember, the Tea Party movement was largely funded by the Koch brothers. Now, I'm not going to say that it's only conservative organizations that fund protests and protesters. Sure, there's stuff on the other side. But again, there's a running theme of it's okay when we do it. That is so much what the conservatives would accuse the liberals of all the time. It's okay when we do it. Well, both parties play that game. So when you look at this, when you look at Khalil's arrest, you're getting a preview of what they're going to try to get away with. And it is fascism. It is fascism. Fascism, they don't come out there and say, I want to take away your freedoms. Right. That's not how they do it. They tell you they're preserving your freedom by taking away your freedom. Hence Orwell's brilliant formulation: freedom is slavery. Right? That's the mindset of totalitarianism. That's the mindset of fascism. They try to convince you that everything is the opposite of what it is. So they're telling you, well, boycotting is anti-freedom. Right. Of course, it is the essence of freedom, and it's something they fully support when they support the cause.
Right. Of course. Is that everything? Do you have two more slides there, or is that the last one? I thought you had.
Hang on. Did I have another? Oh, yep. Whoops. You are right. Okay. So Elon Musk reassuring the investors, I guess, it will be fine long term. Showing he's quote tweeting largest single day drops in Tesla history. 9/8/2020, 21.1%. That was during COVID, of course. January 13th, 2012, 19.1%. March 16th, 2020, 18.6%. But a lot of people responded not having it. In 2020, you hadn't alienated over half of your customers. Tesla is not going to be fine. Can't wait for the stock to tank more. Maverick, it may come back a little, but you have alienated all your base buyers. Competition is growing. Remember when Netscape was the first to market on the browser scene? Now it's NetWho. Most people have not heard of them. Tesla go the way of the dodo. Dump your stock now. George S. Chow, if I were Tesla's stockholder, I would demand Musk's resignation. According to X's own Grok, quote, Musk's support for Germany's far-right AfD party, which boosted the party's electoral performance, but led to a 70% drop in Tesla sales in Germany in early 2025, according to automotive market data. Look, I have long said, for other reasons before Elon really got into politics, I have always felt that Tesla benefited from being first to really focus on EVs in the domestic market, but that once the legacy automakers really got into that space, there was going to be no obvious reason for Tesla to be the leader in that market. But going beyond that, on a more political level, when he went all in on Trump, I mean, it was pretty clear. Look, conservatives are not into EVs. Trump's crowd is not into EVs. Don't tell me about your uncle who drives an EV. Okay, of course, it's a big country of over 300 million people. You're going to have exceptions. As a rule, that's not the market for EVs. Libs, rich libs, are the market for EVs. Exactly the people who hate Trump the most. It was inevitable that when he took this political turn, it was going to completely tank Tesla's sales. And yeah, that tweeter was right. It's not gonna bounce back. Why would it bounce back? On what basis? The stock price could bounce back if he gets enormous defense contracts for Tesla. It might, it might start to just get funded on that basis. People might start buying that stock like they buy Northrop Grumman, not as a consumer product, but as a defense contractor. That's possible. As a consumer product, I don't see it ever recovering.
Yeah, rich libs are
unless he
the
resigns.
core.
He might resign.
Maybe. Rich libs are the core. They're the base buyers, as this person points out here. Who are also the base buyers, more broadly speaking, are rich people. People need money to buy Teslas, and these guys are going to tank the economy, it looks like. I mean,
Right,
Trump is already
right.
signaling there might be a recession, right? Teslas are not cheap cars, and so between demand tanking organically in that way and the fact that, this guy is not going to have a good reputation for much longer. He already doesn't have it. His
Right.
favorability ratings are in the 30s. So, of course, people don't want to be driving around in his cars.
Right.
Right? Now, imagine when that number gets lowered by half, which
Right.
I don't think is an unrealistic bet at this point.
I don't even think it's far off.
Yeah, I don't think it's that far off. So, of course, they're going to be boycotting, and of course, it's completely legal. You see a theme here. The theme is
who's
very
gonna
obvious.
go buy a Tesla now?
Yeah.
Who's gonna go buy a Tesla except for these freaking influencers who want to make a statement of solidarity with Elon?
No, you see a theme here emerging very obviously and in your face. These people do not believe in your right to dissent. They don't believe in that.
Fundamentally do not.
Yeah, they do not. They do not believe in your right to object to them. And we see that manifest in many ways, just in this show alone, this live stream alone.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to the supporters scroll, dudissidents.com/supporters. There we go. We got that going here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. All right. Hey, folks, if you like what we do here and you want to help us keep doing it, become a patron. Very important. Patreon.com/dudissidents, dudissidents.substack.com. Or you can join our locals at dudissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble, the best way to join our locals is to hit that join button right underneath the video player. As news gets more severe, folks, it's going to become riskier and riskier to even do this show on a censorious platform like YouTube. I mean, look at the stuff we had to cover today. We had no choice. It's going to be very difficult to monetize any of those clips. I doubt we'll be able to. We're lucky we could even do them without getting censored. So the best way you can help censor-proof the operation is to become a member. You guys are the backbone of the show. In times like these, we are reliant on our members to keep the lights on here and to keep doing 3 shows a week. So if you go to dudissidents.locals.com, you help us do that. We make it worth your while. You get 2 bonus live streams per month. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As every Sunday, and you get your name up in lights here on the supporter scroll. So that's dudissidents.locals.com. It's just $5 a month or $50 annually. It helps us out tremendously when we have member signups. You guys are the reason we are able to do this. That is not an exaggeration. So if you can sign up, it's $5 a month. Like I said, we give you a lot of perks. Please and thank you very, very much for your support. All right. There's still a few tickets left for Russell's tour.
Yes. All right. Last call for alcohol. Tour's going out Friday, Saturday. I don't know when I'll be doing another one or even if I'll be doing another one. I don't know if I'll be living in the city next year. We'll
Doing
see.
a Buffalo Hot Wings tour.
I'll be doing
walking through 3 feet of snow, eating chicken wings.
When I had, it's expired now. There's no reason for me to bother to go down there to renew it. I'm licensed to tour guide in New Orleans, or I was. One of the reasons I didn't do it or didn't feel strongly about it was I'll never be as good at tour guiding anywhere else as I am tour guiding in New York because I'm from here. Like
Right.
you'll never have those personal anecdotes to bring. Yeah, I remember the hooker that used to work that corner. You'll never be able to do that anyplace else. I mean, I really do on the Irish Mob tour. I remember when 9th Avenue was a stroll when I was like 13. Like somebody drove me out there. I'd never seen anything like it. It was a stroll. It was prostitutes for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks. But on my Irish Mob tour, I will take you to the places where the Irish mobs lived, worked, killed, their headquarters, where they had their meetings. All those places are still standing, all the apartment buildings, all the bars. It's a fascinating history of that part of town, of New York, and of the role that the Irish mob played, which obviously is not as well known or well examined as the Italian mob. You have a lot of Italian mob tours in New York, no Irish mob tours. I'm the only one. Somebody used to do a 5 Points tour, which is downtown. Nobody's ever done the Irish mob of Fell's Kitchen. And doing it there, you're getting into modern times because the Westies, the last of the Irish mobs there, they were active there into the late 80s. So a lot of the people we talk about are still alive.
There you go. So dudissidents.com/tour. All right. Mike Favini, thanks for the €10. Didn't know a green card could be revoked. That's a first as far as I know. You know Dave would have been harassing Aristotle in classical Greece. Thank you, Mike Favini. Angry Bird, thanks for the £10. And it looks like you deleted your chat, but thank you for the donation. Brandon Guillory, low T day. That was excellent. Thank you, Brandon. Steve McNally, thanks for the $50. Let's have a cowbell for Steve. Thank you for that. Very much, my friend. BYD has exploded in Australia. You can't go a block without seeing one. I went and had a look at them out of interest. They are twice the car a Tesla is for your money. Thank you, Steve. Yes, we're hearing things about these BYDs. Absolutely. We're hearing a lot. I think we got a couple
Everyone's talking
about
about it. It's unbelievable, actually.
Yeah, exactly. RD&W, considering that Israel used pagers as an act of terrorism, wouldn't it be an act of terrorism to jokingly offer a pager? Well, yeah, Zionists have rights in the U.S. that most others don't. Yep.
You got that right.
Guys, you plan to cover Romania. It looks like an interesting precedent. If you feel too ignorant about Europe, you can invite the guys from the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle and George Samouli. Yeah, we were going to.
Ignorance has never stopped us before.
Ignorance does not stop us,
other stories keep knocking it out. I thought about doing it today. But other things took precedence.
You may not know them, says Victor Shakopoulos, but Jimmy the Gray Zone follow them, and I'm sure Lavelle watches your show. The Gaggle in your show are my favorites, if that's any recommendation. I never heard of them, so maybe I'll
I never heard of the
check
Gaggle.
that out. I never heard of that. Thank you, Victor. Eric Rousseau, Ivy League universities are a scam, nothing but an oligarchic institution for elitist networking and indoctrination.
Listen, when I used to own theaters on 4th Street, the dumbest motherfuckers I would ever deal with were from Yale. And Yale is like the gold standard of theater schools. They were always total morons.
Did you see former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has been visiting the Ivies? In a speech at Harvard, he joked about sending beepers to student activists. Free speech exists. Eric Rousseau, Trumpers think Democrats are communists and Marxists. Yeah, indeed. Ken Texican, thanks for the $50. Let's have a cowbell for Ken Texican. 2 thumbs up to Greenwald and the Hill to Die On. Officers in our military, all too soon it seems, are going to need to remember that they swore an oath to support and defend, and it is not the president. That's right. Ken Texican for another $50. Wow, thank you. That's very kind.
Boom, making it rain today, man.
Making it rain. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Is Miriam's Persian lap cat considered foreign or domestic? Yes, indeed. Good one. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you, my friend. Appreciate that. And Ken, for another $1, at some point, more and more people are going to recognize Trump as an enemy of the Constitution. I agree. All right. We got one more segment for you guys today.
All right. It's all fun and games until planes start dropping out of the sky. God forbid. We hope that doesn't happen. I'm afraid it's going to. Some would say it already has started with all the accidents you're having lately under this regime. So we did a previous segment dealing with Elon's interview with Joe Rogan was some particular focus on what they said about the media not being reliable. And there was one claim that Elon made there that I wanted to go fact check, and it opened up a whole other can of worms. So let's hear what he said. Oh, whoops. Sorry. That's the slideshow.
Yeah, gotta get the
Sorry about that.
The Associated Press, which I call Associated Propaganda, the AP, they ran a international news story saying that Doge fired air traffic controllers, but we didn't fire any air traffic controllers at all. In fact, we're trying to hire air traffic controllers, not fire them.
Yeah, I saw that. You made a tweet about it, right?
Okay, so we didn't really know in real time if this was true or not true, that the AP had falsely reported that he fired air traffic controllers. Unless somebody can find other information, we checked this pretty carefully. They did not say that. They said Trump fires FAA air traffic control staff. That's what you get in the search, and then the headline within the article. Trump begins firing of FAA staff just weeks after fatal DC plane crash. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. So while the basic thesis that the corporate media reports a lot of propaganda, I certainly wouldn't argue with. So does Elon. So is Joe Rogan platforms. Quite a lot of self-serving oligarchic propaganda. So yeah, it's true as far as it goes. But it's interesting that he's making the claim that the corporate media can't be trusted while lying about what the AP said, because what the AP said is actually true. And if you really delve into the details on this, you're probably going to end up like me saying, if I'm within the U.S. borders, within the FAA's flight control system, I'm taking a train. Musk's Doge team, it's actually worse. The AP reported the facts as they knew them then, but it looks like Musk actually did try to fire air traffic controllers. So they had a meeting on Thursday. There was a lot of reporting on this. Musk's Doge team reportedly tried to fire air traffic controllers amid multiple plane crashes, but was stopped by the transportation secretary. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and Elon Musk squabbled during a cabinet meeting at the White House on Thursday, sources told the New York Times. Duffy was reportedly frustrated that Musk and Doge had tried to cut air traffic control employees. Duffy also rebuffed Musk's claim that air traffic controllers were hired from DEI initiatives. Elon Musk and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy reportedly had a testy exchange in a White House meeting Thursday about the conditions of the Federal Aviation Administration's equipment and its air traffic controllers, according to the New York Times. Duffy said the Doge team was trying to lay off air traffic controllers and asked what he was supposed to do while dealing with multiple recent plane crashes. In January, 67 people died after an American Airlines flight collided in midair with a military Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac River near Washington, D.C. In February, an air ambulance crashed in Philadelphia shortly after takeoff, killing 7, and 2 small planes collided in midair over southern Arizona, killing 2. Musk called Duffy's comments about layoffs a lie, sources told the Times. Duffy maintained his stance, saying he heard from the Doge team directly. Musk demanded the names of people who had been fired, prompting Duffy to fire back that there were no names because he blocked the terminations. Duffy also rebuffed Musk's claim that people hired from diversity, equity, and inclusion programs were working in control towers. The interchange concluded with President Donald Trump telling Duffy that he needed to hire MIT graduates as air traffic controllers, saying they need to be geniuses, the report said. Well, problem solved. Problem solved. That's what you call a steady hand on the till, right there. Hey, yeah, get them all from MIT. They're geniuses over there. It's a great solution. So the Atlantic as I mentioned in a previous segment, I've read a lot of reporting on this. The Atlantic brought it all together in one place. Yeah, I don't trust when the Atlantic reports on Ukraine, that kind of thing. But you'd really be hard pressed to find a well-funded, well-known outlet, whether it's Daily Wire, the Atlantic, the New York Post, or the New York Times, where you don't have to double and triple check. I did double and triple check on this article, and they compiled all of the reporting on this pretty well and did their own original reporting. The FAA's troubles are more serious than you know. On January 29th, American Airlines Flight 5342 collided with a U.S. Army helicopter near Washington's Ronald Reagan National Airport, killing 67 people in the deadliest U.S. air disaster in recent history. That alone would have been a crisis for the FAA, the agency charged with ensuring the safety of air passengers. That same day, FAA employees, including air traffic controllers, safety inspectors, and mechanical engineers, received an email advising them to leave their job under a buyout program announced just 2 days before. Quote, "The way to greater American prosperity is encouraging people to move from lower productivity jobs in the public sector to higher productivity jobs in the private sector," urged the email sent to all federal workers. More than 1,300 FAA employees replied to the email out of a workforce of about 45,000. Most of those who responded selected, "Yes, I confirm that I am resigning, retiring." Initially, that included about 100 air traffic controllers who replied to the email, threatening a crucial and already understaffed component of the workforce. Now, I just want to pause for 1 second and point this out. Yes, they realized after this, oh shit. And then they said, well, no, if you're an air traffic controller, you can't quit. Do you think it's really safe to have someone like Elon who just willy-nilly does shit to see how it's going to turn out, having this much power over the FAA? Are you comfortable having somebody who would be so neglectful of the safety of the public that they would make a mistake like that on an impulse, on a whim, without thinking it through, without putting any processes in place, is just going to mess with the FAA? Has it occurred to anybody that Elon is a psychopath, that he really doesn't care if people die in the process of this? He's just kind of trying to, he said himself, he's turning things on and off to see what happens, right? But he's doing that at the FAA.
Yeah, no, this is what people don't understand. I mean, this is why people in general are kind of blindsided by Doge. They don't understand how people can act with such disregard for the consequences of their actions. But that's the way all these tech people are. They just don't understand that because they've never dealt with them.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, they're bosses. So yeah, they're quirky, but they're bosses. No, they're not. They're not bosses. They are overlords who, with a snap of a finger, could turn your living on, turn it off, make you safe, make the plane fall out. Like they don't care. They don't care. They're not normal in that way.
And remember, part of the reason they get that rich is by crushing people, by crushing workers, by paying workers as little as possible, by exploiting other people for their talents and wringing as much value out of them as possible with as little pay as they can get away with. And you have somebody like that running loose in the government, dealing with critical safety systems like the FAA.
Right.
Interest in the offer among air traffic controllers was alarming, agency officials told me, because an internal FAA safety report had found that staffing at the air traffic control tower at Reagan Airport was, quote, not normal at the time of January's deadly crash. Now, of course, Trump can't be blamed for that. He just got into office at that time. Clearly, there were already deficiencies with how it was being run. But that's exactly why you don't want to send out an email like that until you know what the deal is, until you've actually put people in there to really examine what's going on inside the FAA. And for anybody who was a fan of Breaking Bad, you might remember there was a main plot point in there where people died in a plane crash because Walter White was responsible for the death of a daughter of an air traffic controller and he was distracted. Now, okay, that's fiction, but do you think it's safe to have a bunch of air traffic controllers worried about their jobs when they should be worried about making sure you're safe when you're in a plane? What, you think that's not stressing them out, getting these emails and then being told, oh, no, never mind.
Right.
It took the agency, which is housed within the Department of Transportation, about a week to clarify that certain job categories were exempt from early retirement, including air traffic controllers, according to a February 5th email I reviewed. That guidance arrived in agency inboxes only after Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy had announced it on cable television, saying on February 2nd, we're going to keep all our safety positions in place. So he announces that on TV. It takes another 3 days before the air traffic controllers are told that they can't resign. But agency, if that's great for morale, and what you really want in an agency responsible for your life when you get on a plane is low morale, stress, and distraction. But agency officials told me that many jobs with critical safety functions are indeed being sacrificed, with any possible replacements uncertain because of the government-wide hiring freeze. And records I reviewed show that employees classified as eligible for early retirement and therefore allowed to walk off the job include aviation safety technicians and assistants, quality assurance specialists, and engineers. Meanwhile, the buyouts reach far beyond air traffic safety, affecting other core elements of the agency. Top officials in the finance, acquisitions, and compliance divisions have left or are expected to go. As hundreds of career officials depart, the FAA has a fresh face in its midst. Ted Malaska, a SpaceX engineer who arrived at the agency last month with instructions from SpaceX's owner, Elon Musk, to deploy equipment from the SpaceX subsidiary Starlink across the FAA's communication network. The directive promises to make the nation's air traffic control system dependent on the billionaire Trump ally, using equipment that experts say has not gone through strict U.S. government security and risk management review. Now, the article gets a little more into it than we're going to here, but part of what's alarming about this is when you get the contract for your communication system, as we'll see, Verizon actually has the contract to do this, that equipment has to have been vetted as basically hack proof. That hasn't been done with Starlink. Nobody has really gone through the software of Starlink to make sure that hackers can't get into it and take down the nation's planes. But because nobody is overseeing what Elon's doing, he's just putting in one of his guys and being like, yeah, put in Starlink. The FAA's turn to Starlink as a solution for its aging communications network poses a challenge to a $2.4 billion contract awarded to Verizon in 2023 to upgrade the agency's network. FAA lawyers have been working 80-hour weeks to figure out what to do, whether they need to cancel or amend parts of the contract, or else find the funds to supplement Verizon's work with Starlink equipment. Inside the FAA, morale is at an all-time low, you think? Two agency officials told me. A former senior executive told me that recent events, beginning with the crash and the pressure to take early retirement, have sunk the agency into complete chaos. The consequences, the former executive said, could be far-reaching. The FAA oversees an industry that supports $1.8 trillion in economic activity and about 4% of American GDP. It keeps millions of people safe. And this is a key point here. Quote, this isn't Twitter, where the worst that happens is people losing access to their accounts, the former senior executive said. People die when FAA workers are distracted and processes are broken, unquote. Interviews and internal FAA records show that as many as 12% of the country's aeronautical information specialists have been fired or are exiting the agency as part of the government-wide buyout program. Now, one of the things aeronautical information specialists do is make sure those maps that tell the air traffic controllers where all of the planes are, they work on those and make sure that those are accurate. For example, when a SpaceX rocket blew up last week, an aeronautical information specialist would have been the ones to update the maps to keep the plane safe to avoid any resulting debris from that.
Right.
So these people are going, a lot of them. At least 28 of the specialists signed up for the buyout, including several supervisors, according to a list I obtained. That's on top of 13 probationary employees working in these roles who were terminated last month, says David Spiro, the president of the union representing them, the Professional Aviation Safety Specialists. The agency had only 351 of these technical experts on hand, Spiro told me, so the reductions are significant. All told, at least 124 engineers, 51 IT specialists, and 26 program managers signed up for early retirement. The vice president for Mission Support Services, who started as an air traffic controller in the 1990s, expressed interest in leaving. So did the agency's acting vice president for air traffic services. Some have been rehired, agency officials told me, contributing to an atmosphere of chaos and uncertainty. And if there's anything you want at the FAA, it's an atmosphere of chaos and uncertainty. Now, I've read other articles about this that get into some other details of people who've been fired. This really focused on higher level people. But they're trying to tell you, no, these are just support staff. Okay, well, when you get rid of the support staff, what do you think the person who inspects the plane has to do? They have to do the paperwork that the support staff was doing. So now you've got a distracted and overworked inspector signing off on your plane. And you take that through many of these roles where you have people at the top that they're not getting rid of, but they're getting rid of all the people that support their job so that now they have to do those jobs. It's extremely dangerous. I'm going on record saying right now, look, by nature of what we do, I can't say never, but I'm really going to try to avoid flying within the United States because this is clearly not safe.
No, I mean, look, and what's the reason to do it? I mean, what is the reason to do it, really? Why? Right? Do you have to cut there? Is it really urgent that you cut there? Is that really where you're seeing all this waste happen? No, these people, they simply don't care. It's
Let's see what
something
happens.
people are not used to. Yeah, people can't wrap their heads around how little people like Elon and Zuckerberg and Dorsey and Bezos, how little they care about other people. They really are a special breed. They are completely detached from the consequences of the decisions that they make.
Right.
And they act that way.
Right. And remember, they live in a world where they can lose money on bad bets and just get more money in from the stock market, from investors, from second round funding, from doing an offering. They can always find more money from the markets.
Right.
So the idea of catastrophic failure, it doesn't even occur to them. The whole system is so rigged to keep their businesses afloat and to keep their class wealthy and fat and never really suffering too much from their mistakes. You're bringing that mentality to safety systems. This is not a new virtual reality helmet where you can make a bad bet or a new AI large language learning model that the Chinese beat. This is flying. This is the flying public, and they're applying that same logic. Oh, well, if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. By the time they try something else, people are going to be dead.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. R. Dean W. Most employers contribute to employee 401k accounts rather than a pension fund. The stock market is absolutely a Ponzi scheme. Nina Kant, for the $5. Thank you. Chinese BYD new cost $8,000. Yeah, I believe that. Did you guys catch my other Rumble rant, the Gaylord one? Yes, we did, Noah. Indeed. Thank you. It's a good one. Eric Rousseau, good old Duffy may be a hard-hitting Secretary of Transportation, but does he love transportation like Pete Buttigieg? There you go. Miserable Lib, just in DOE, giving the axe to half of its staff tonight. Hopefully they're the ones who are keeping track of my student loans. Department of Education. Good. There we go. Well, that's another story for Thursday. Thank you, Miserable Lib. Appreciate that very much. We appreciate you all being here today. That's our show, everybody. Thanks for making time for us this afternoon. I think we got the Post-Duopoly show tomorrow, right? I think that's 7 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, yes. So that'll be 7 p.m. tomorrow on RBN, Post-Duopoly with Nick and Kit. We'll see you guys for that one. And then we'll be back here on the main channel, of course, Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Until we see you again, thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.